Chapter 297. Escape. Upon seeing Wang Ku's attitude, Han Feng, who was standing nearby, stepped forward, kicking Wang Ku squarely, causing him to immediately spit out blood. Yet even so, Wang Ku looked at Jiang Peihuan with mocking eyes. One never even took your father seriously. As for you, I care even less. It doesn't matter whether you take me seriously or not. What matters is, do you care about your family? What do you mean? Hearing this, a hint of panic flashed in Wang Ku's eyes. Jiang Peihuan, however, remained composed. She didn't look at Wang Ku, but instead signaled to Han Feng. A moment later, a young boy was brought over. The boy, who appeared to be around 3 or 4 years old, began to cry out upon seeing Wang Ku. Shua! Upon seeing his son, Wang Ku's expression changed. Gazing darkly at Jiang Peihuan, Wang Ku coldly said, "What did you do with my son?" "Of course, it's to threaten you." "You!" Hearing Jiang Peihuan's candid response, Wang Ku was so infuriated he was at a loss for words. The boy continued to cry out for his father. Hearing his son's cries, Wang Ku's eyes were filled with conflict and his gaze towards Jiang Peihuan became more resentful. "I never imagined Jiang Hong would have such a ruthless daughter. My father was indeed very generous to you all, but didn't each of you betray him?" Facing Wang Ku's accusations, Jiang Peihuan responded calmly. Having returned from the dead, she only remembered Meng Yi as the main culprit but had forgotten about those associated with him. "Wang Ku, my patience is limited. Will you talk or not?" At Jiang Peihuan's indication, Han Feng drew a dagger, aiming it at Wang Ku's son's throat. Seeing this, pure panic filled Wang Ku's eyes. After a long pause, he finally murmured, "Ill talk, ill talk." Subsequently, Wang Ku recounted his collaboration and deals with Prince Qing. After he finished, he looked at Jiang Peihuan. "I've told you everything you wanted to know. Can you now release my son?" "Not just yet. Later, I'll take you to the emperor. Only after you repeat everything in his presence will one release your son." After saying this, Jiang Peihuan signaled Han Feng, who then carried the boy away. Watching this, Wang Ku's eyes darkened. He didn't look at Jiang Peihuan, but turned to Xiao Nanya instead. "King Cheng, they say helleth no fury like a woman scorned. Would you really keep such a woman by your side, without fearing for your life?" "I admire her ruthlessness," replied Xiao Nanya. "If she truly desires my life, one would gladly offer it to her." Wang Ku was speechless. He had intended to sow discord between Xiao Nanya and Jiang Peihuan, but he didn't expect such an answer from Xiao Nanya. That night, Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nanya took Wang Ku into the palace. The Qianqing Hall. Emperor Qiming was clearly waiting for the two of them. Seeing the two bowing to him, he asked in a calm voice, "How did it go? Today is the last day, have you found out everything?" "It's all clear. The deaths of those two have nothing to do with Huan Er. It's all the scheming of Prince Qing behind the scenes," Xiao Nanya answered immediately. The emperor, who was reviewing official documents, paused his brush when he heard this. Setting the brush down, he looked at Xiao Nanya and Jiang Peihuan and asked, "You say the culprit behind this is Prince Qing. Do you have any evidence?" Soon after, Wang Ku was brought before Emperor Qiming. Without needing Xiao Nanya and Jiang Peihuan to prompt him, Wang Ku repeated everything he had previously disclosed. Upon hearing Wang Ku's words, the emperor's eyes burned with anger. Looking to Wang Ku and at his side, he ordered coldly, "Summon Prince Qing." Yes. Though the distance from Prince Qing's mansion to the palace was quite considerable, Xiao Juanhao appeared before the emperor within an hour. Entering the Qianqing Hall, Xiao Juanhao seemed to have a sense of what was happening. Approaching the emperor, he greeted, "One greets imperial father. Prince Qing, you're quite audacious, daring to plot against the first prince of the grassland tribes." "Imperial father, I am wronged," exclaimed Xiao Juanhao, immediately kneeling. "You claim to be wronged, but do you dare deny knowing Wang Ku, or having dealings with him?" "Imperial father, one indeed have associations with General Wang, but the death of Prince Ha Kai really has no connection to me. One have been occupied with the disaster areas recently." "You've been busy with the disaster areas?" "Yes, even though the heavy snow has ceased, the people still suffer greatly. During this time, I have been focusing on the disaster relief. If Imperial Father doesn't believe me, you can inquire with the officials. Moreover, one have already thought of a solution to aid the victims. What solution? Hearing Xiao Juanhao mention the disaster areas, Emperor Qiming immediately forgot about the deaths. I would like to discuss the solution privately with Imperial Father, whispered Xiao Juanhao, casting a glance at Xiao Nanya and Jiang Peihuan. While others might have missed it, Jiang Peihuan clearly saw the smug look in Xiao Junhao's eyes. With a hint of displeasure, Emperor Qiming still agreed and they retreated to the inner hall. Once seated, the emperor coldly said, "Now, you can speak. Imperial Father, this is the solution I have in mind." As he spoke, Xiao Juanhao placed a black wooden box in front of the emperor. This box was previously given to him by Jiang Yang. Originally, he planned to present this sum of silver later when the disaster worsened. However, upon hearing of Xiao Nanya and Jiang Peihuan's entrance into the palace, he realized his plan had been exposed, and hence brought the box with him. When Emperor Qiming saw the banknotes in the box, his eyes were filled with surprise. Outside, Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nanya waited quietly. Seeing the silver notes inside the box, the emperor's eyes widened in surprise. Outside, Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nanya waited in silence. After a while, Emperor Qiming emerged, followed by Xiao Juanhao. "The matter has been clarified. It was a misunderstanding," declared the emperor. "You two can go home now." Xiao Nanya and Jiang Peihuan exchanged glances, both sensing each other's surprise. Without uttering a word, they bowed and left. Once outside the palace, Xiao Nanya remarked, "It seems this matter will be left unresolved. It's likely that Prince Qing promised some benefits to Emperor Qiming," Jiang Peihuan speculated. "That's a given," Xiao Nanya responded with a hint of sarcasm in his eyes. Jiang Peihuan remained silent, having already known much about Emperor Qiming from her previous life. Chapter 298, Exploring Huainan Mansion at night as an emperor. He did not have the wisdom of an emperor at all. But in front of Xiao Nanya, Jiang Peihuan didn't want to say this. Inside the carriage, everyone fell silent. It wasn't until they returned to the general's mansion that Jiang Peihuan called Yi Xiao. "Queen Cheng?" After bowing to the two, Yi Xiao then turned to Jiang Peihuan and said, "My queen, what do you need from me?" "Yes, go to the Huainan mansion and arrange a meeting with the Prince Huainan." "Yes." Upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's instructions, Yi Xiao nodded and then left. After Yi Xiao left, Xiao Nanya turned to Jiang Peihuan and asked, "Are you trying to investigate the matter of the Huainan prince's mansion taking the Jiang family's bows and arrows?" "Yes. Although the matter with the Prince Qing mansion has been settled, I believe that the Prince Qing will not act rashly for a while. But I don't know what the Huainan mansion wants. To prevent this from happening again, one need to understand the situation." Jiang Peihuan didn't want to have any contact with the people in Huainan mansion. But she had to investigate this matter, so seeking out Zhao Yong seemed like a good approach. Although Zhao Yong was also a member of the Huainan mansion, Jiang Peihuan had a good impression of him. "When I go to see the Huainan prince, do you want to come with me?" "Yes, I'll accompany you." As soon as Xiao Nanya finished speaking, Yi Xiao returned. Although the general's mansion was not far from the Huainan mansion, it was still a distance away. Seeing Yi Xiao return so quickly, Jiang Peihuan looked puzzled. After Yi Xiao bowed, she asked directly, "What did the Huainan prince say?" "I didn't meet Prince Huainan." "You didn't?" Hearing Yi Xiao's words, Jiang Peihuan was full of confusion. Facing Jiang Peihuan's puzzled expression, Yi Xiao spoke softly, "One went to the Huainan mansion, but the servants said that the prince is not receiving guests." Hearing this, Jiang Peihuan frowned. "However, my queen, I noticed something strange. It seems that all the servants of the Huainan mansion have been replaced." "All of them?" "Yes." Yi Xiao, being from the secret guards, has a keen sense for these things. Even if she had only seen someone once, she would remember. But the people she saw at the Huainan mansion today, she was certain she had never seen them before. If it were one or two people, it could be overlooked, but if everyone was unfamiliar, then it was unusual. Logically speaking, The servants of wealthy families won't change often, Jiang Peihuan whispered. Xiao Nanye, who was standing beside Jiang Peihuan, said in a low voice, unless something happened, like servants being killed or injured. Saying this, the two exchanged a look. If you want to know what happened at the Huainan mansion, you can go and take a look. A moment later, Xiao Nanye and Jiang Peihuan changed into black clothes and went to the Huainan mansion. As soon as she entered the Huainan mansion, Jiang Peihuan felt that something was strange. Because Zhao Yong was now the Prince of Huainan, his residence would be in the front yard. Jiang Peihuan had been to Huainan mansion before, so she was somewhat familiar with its layout. She held Xiao Nanye's hand and headed directly towards the front courtyard. However, just as she took a step forward, a scream came from the backyard. The two exchanged a glance and immediately headed to the backyard. In the backyard, they arrived at Chu Ron's residence within the Huainan mansion. All of the prince's servants were kneeling on the ground, many were already dead. Blood dripped from the mouths of both the King Huainan and Zhao Yong. Only Chu Ron was seated calmly on a chair, with Zhao Fuqing by her side. Zhao Fuqing had only one leg and looked extremely grim. At the moment, he was staring menacingly at King Huainan, Zhao Yang, and Zhao Yong. King Huainan, with rage in his eyes, shouted at Chu Ru, how dare you poison me? What do you want? I should be the one asking you this. You despise Qing for becoming a cripple, so you want to support that bastard to ascend the throne. This is impossible. Chu Ron's eyes burned with anger. She had been patiently waiting for this moment. You've gone mad. Zhao Yang said coldly, not looking at Chu Ru but at Zhao Fuqing on the chair. Has your mother's madness infected you as well? Would you dare commit patricide? Zhao Fuqing responded defiantly, why wouldn't I dare? In your eyes, you've never seen me as your son. Why should one see you as my father? Zhao Yang was taken aback. What nonsense are you spouting? Zhao Fuqing replied, isn't that what you truly think? Zhao Fuqing stood slowly, using a cane for support, and drew his sword. You always said I was useless. But why did one end up this way? Isn't it because of your schemes? He continued, from childhood, you never truly guided me. Instead, you constantly oppressed me. You did all this just to pave the way for the son you truly cherished. As he spoke, Zhao Fuqing slowly rose to his feet. He leaned half of his body on his cane and then directly drew out his long sword. Holding the cane, Zhao Fuqing slowly approached the Huainan king. Zhao Yang, you're right, today one intend to commit patricide. Zhao Fuqing, you'd kill him? He is your biological father. Seeing Zhao Fuqing's actions, Zhao Yong immediately stood in front of Zhao Yang, looking at Zhao Fuqing with a troubled expression. Upon hearing Zhao Yong's voice, Zhao Fuqing's already grim face darkened even more. Looking at Zhao Yong, Zhao Fuqing said with fury eyes, shut up. Who do you think you are? What gives you the right to speak to me? If it weren't for you, I would still be the Prince of Huainan, not a cripple. Finishing his words, Zhao Fuqing suddenly laughed looking at Zhao Yang. You adore this son of yours, don't you? Well, I'll kill him right in front of you and let you taste the pain of heartbreak. As his voice trailed off, the sword in Zhao Fuqing's hand was thrust directly at Zhao Yong. Seeing his move, Zhao Yong's eyes widened. But suddenly, a black whip descended from the sky, wrapping itself around Zhao Fuqing's sword. Then, Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nanye appeared in front of everyone. What a grand drama! Removing the cloth from his face, Xiao Nanye spoke with a smile. Jiang Peihuan? Zhao Fuqing looked at the black whip entangling his sword, his eyes filled with gloom as he stared at Jiang Peihuan standing opposite him. Although Jiang Peihuan's face was veiled, Zhao Fuqing recognized the whip. Upon hearing his words, Jiang Peihuan directly removed the cloth from her face but did not step back. Chapter 299, The Unforeseen Event in the Huainan Mansion. Looking at Jiang Peihuan's revealed face, Zhao Fuqing's eyes darkened even more. What, you want to save him? With just the two of you? Without waiting for Jiang Peihuan to reply, Zhao Fuqing responded with a mocking look. At this moment, Xiao Nanye also stood beside Jiang Peihuan. Then, The uniform sound of footsteps reached their ears. Both Xiao Nanye and Jiang Peihuan turned their heads to see a formation of soldiers marching toward them. Seeing this, both Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nanye displayed worried expressions. However, a smile appeared in Zhao Fuqing's eyes. Looking at Xiao Nanye and Jiang Peihuan, he remarked lightly, "I know you both are highly skilled in martial arts, but can you take on so many at once? Jiang Peihuan, you had a hand in crippling my leg. I initially planned to confront you later, but since you've come to me today, I'll accommodate you." As he finished speaking, Zhao Fuqing retreated a couple of steps. Immediately, the soldiers surrounded the duo. Watching the encircled Xiao Nanye and Jiang Peihuan, Zhao Fuqing ordered coldly, "Kill them." "Qing if Xiao Nanye is killed, the palace will surely investigate this matter," said Chu Ru, who was seated in the main position, her eyes showing conflict. She didn't care about Jiang Peihuan's fate, disregarding the general's daughter. However, she did have reservations about Xiao Nanye, who was, after all, the emperor's brother. Hearing Chu Ru, Zhao Fuqing appeared indifferent. "Mother, do you think we have any way out now?" At this, Chu Ru remained silent. "Attack!" Upon Zhao Fuqing's command, the soldiers drew their daggers. Xiao Nanye and Jiang Peihuan exchanged glances and began to fight back to back. Shortly after, Jiang Peihuan realized that these soldiers had been specially trained. The situation was highly unfavorable. Jiang Peihuan was most worried about the poison within Xiao Nanye. Though suppressed, exerting himself too much could trigger it. Keeping this in mind, Jiang Peihuan's moves became increasingly fierce and swift. Initially, they managed with ease, but as more soldiers joined, the two began to struggle. Zhao Fuqing watched with a smug grin. Now with only one leg, Zhao Fuqing couldn't stand for long, so he took a seat. He watched them triumphantly. "Today is your end." Before he could finish, he felt intense pain from behind. Turning around, Zhao Fuqing saw Huainan King standing behind him. Turning his head, Zhong Fuqing saw the Prince of Huainan standing behind him. Following the direction of the King's Huainan, Zhao Fuqing's eyes landed on the long sword in the hands of his own father. "Qing When the King Huainan pulled out his sword, Zhong Fuqing fell off his chair. Hearing the commotion, everyone instinctively looked over. Chu Ru, the Queen of Huainan Mansion, saw Zhao Fuqing on the ground. Her eyes widened in shock, followed by a scream of rage. "Zhao Fuqing has already fallen. Do you still wish to continue fighting?" Upon witnessing this, Jiang Peihuan's eyes revealed a hint of complexity. But in a moment, she addressed the encircling soldiers. When the soldiers heard Jiang Peihuan's voice, their eyes were filled with conflict. At this juncture, Xiao Nanye spoke in a cold voice, "Drop your weapons. If you do, one can overlook today's incident, otherwise," he left the threat hanging, but the implication was clear from his tone. Hearing Xiao Nanye's words, the soldiers began to lower their weapons. "Zhao Yang, I'm going to kill you. How could you kill your own son?" Chu Ru, looking at the wound on Zhao Fuqing, suddenly lunged at Zhao Yang. Zhao Yang, caught off guard, never anticipated that Chu Ru would attack him, so she managed to scratch his face. Chu Ru's nails were sharp, leaving visible marks on Zhao Yang's face. Touching his face and seeing the blood, Zhao Yang's eyes were filled with darkness. As Chu Ru lunged again, Zhao Yang grabbed her wrist and flung her to the ground. Chu Ru, lying on the ground, glared at Zhao Yang, her eyes filled with hatred. "Take the queen back to her room. She is not to leave without my permission." After Zhao Yang's words, Chu Ru was quickly escorted away. "It seems, King Huainan, you were never poisoned at all." Jiang Peihuan said this. Hearing her words, Zhao Yang looked at her. As their eyes met, Jiang Peihuan's expression changed. "Huan be careful." No one expected Zhao Yang to suddenly attack. Although Jiang Peihuan reacted quickly, Zhao Yang was faster. Just as the sword was about to pierce Jiang Peihuan's heart, Xiao Nanye pulled her hand, effectively deflecting Zhao Yang's blade. Holding Jiang Peihuan, Xiao Nanye looked darkly at Zhao Yang, saying coldly, "It seems tonight was just a trap you set. You purposely used the Jiang family's arrows as bait to lure both of us here. I just wonder if you will face retribution for even killing your own son to achieve your goals." There was undeniable mockery in Xiao Nanyes' eyes as he finished. Zhao Yang, after hearing this, gave Zhao Fuking's corpse a glance, and whispered, "Those who wish to achieve great things do not get bogged down by trifles, especially when Zhao Fuking isn't your biological son." Jiang Peihuan interrupted before Zhao Yang could finish. Upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, surprise flashed across Zhao Yang's eyes, which quickly turned cold. Looking at Jiang Peihuan, he said coldly, "I didn't expect you to know this secret. How did you find out?" How she found out was naturally from her knowledge in her past life. In her previous life, Xiao Juanhao, aiming to win over the Huainan prince's residence, had someone monitor Zhao Yang's every move. Through investigation, Xiao Juanhao learned that Zhao Fuking was not Zhao Yang's biological son. This was a major reason why the Huainan prince's residence later leaned towards Xiao Juanhao. After all, no man wants his scandal to be public knowledge. How one found out isn't important. I just want to know, if this news gets out, how will the King Huainan face the talk of the town? Haha, hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Zhao Yang laughed as if he heard a delightful joke. However, there was not a hint of amusement in his eyes, only ruthlessness. Chapter 300. Poison. Looking at Jiang Peihuan, Zhao Yang coldly said, "It's simple. If you die, no one in this world will know the secret. You're so confident you can kill the two of us. If King Cheng had not been poisoned, I wouldn't be confident. But I know that the poison in King Cheng's body has not been completely cleared, so today is the day you two die." Saying this, Zhao Yang raised his long sword. "By you alone." Seeing Zhao Yang rushing towards him, Xiao Nanyes' eyes revealed a hint of mockery. However, as he clashed with Zhao Yang, a coldness also appeared in his eyes. Standing by, Jiang Peihuan noticed Zhao Yang's fierce moves and her expression became tense. She recognized that Zhao Yang was the same mysterious man who had previously pursued them in the western regions. Now, she finally understood why Zhao Yang insisted on luring them here. At first, she thought it was because of her, but it seemed the trap was set for Xiao Nanye. Zhao Yang was strong, a master in martial arts. As Xiao Nanye began to struggle, Jiang Peihuan quickly stepped forward to help. Facing Jiang Peihuan's assistance, Zhao Yang's eyes showed no change, but he mocked, "Neither of you is a match for me. It's better to die now and suffer less." As his words fell, he struck Xiao Nanye away with a palm, then aimed his sword at Jiang Peihuan. "Now, let's see who can save you." Jiang Peihuan could clearly feel the threatening presence of the blade. "Corner!" Having been pushed back, Xiao Nanye looked on with concern. Jiang Peihuan instinctively closed her eyes. However, the expected pain did not come. Instead, she heard Zhao Yang's angry shout, "What do you think you're doing?" There was fury in Zhao Yang's tone. When she opened her eyes, she saw Zhao Yong, standing in front of her, protecting her. Zhao Yong was still weak, but he blocked Zhao Yang. He whispered, "Father, if anything happens to Miss Jiang and King Cheng, it will cause a lot of trouble. Please stop. Get out of the way." Despite Zhao Yong's reasoning, Zhao Yang angrily rebuked him. However, Zhao Yong remained unmoved. At this moment, Xiao Nanye joined the fight again. Feeling the onset of the poison inside him, Xiao Nanyes' moves became increasingly aggressive. Both Jiang Peihuan and Zhao Yong stepped in to help. Jiang Peihuan and Zhao Yong also stepped forward to help. With their combined effort, Xiao Nanye landed a kick on Zhao Yang's chest, sending him flying. Jiang Peihuan was about to deliver a finishing blow when she saw a sword piercing Zhao Yang's heart. The one who attacked was none other than Chu Ru, who was taken away just moments ago. At this moment, Chu Ron's eyes were full of rage. Holding the sword's hilt tightly, her eyes were fixed on Zhao Yang. "What did you mean earlier? Why did you say Qing is not your biological son?" "Why?" Chu Ron's eyes were filled with a crimson rage. On the other hand, Zhao Yang, with a sword plunged into his heart, had eyes filled with unwillingness and resentment. He wanted to say something, but he couldn't make a sound. In the end, Chu Ru never got the answer she was looking for, as Zhao Yang drew his last breath and died. Xiao Nanye. Jiang Peihuan turned to see Xiao Nanye, whose face was pale as a ghost. When she touched his hand, she found it icy cold. Zhao Yong had a complex look in his eyes. Seeing Xiao Nanye in such a state, he said to Jiang Peihuan, "His Highness is suffering from the effects of the poison. We should go to my chambers." Having said that, Zhao Yong picked up Xiao Nanye. Jiang Peihuan didn't refuse and followed. "Please prepare the herbs and hot water for me." By the time Zhao Yong laid Xiao Nanye on the bed, Jiang Peihuan had already written down the prescription. Receiving the prescription from her, Zhao Yong left without a word. Shortly after, everything Jiang Peihuan needed was brought to the room. Xiao Nanye was shivering uncontrollably, his lips turning pupil. Jiang Peihuan undressed him and helped him into a bath. The water in the tub was hot, but as Xiao Nanye entered, the temperature rapidly cooled down. Witnessing this, Jiang Peihuan frowned. The herbal medicine had some effect, but it was not enough. Taking out her silver needles, she started to perform acupuncture on Xiao Nanye. An hour later, Xiao Nanye's complexion began to warm up. Just as Jiang Peihuan was putting away her needles, there was a knock at the door. "Queen Cheng?" It was Han Feng's voice. Hearing him, Jiang Peihuan immediately said, "Come in." As soon as Jiang Peihuan's voice fell, the door was pushed open from the outside. Subsequently, Han Feng and Yi Xiao walked into the room together. "Master." Seeing Xiao Nanye sitting in the bathtub, concern filled Han Feng's eyes. "My queen, are you all right?" Yi Xiao, on the other hand, turned her gaze to Jiang Peihuan. Her eyes were also full of worry. As she spoke, she instinctively examined Jiang Peihuan, and only when she noticed that Jiang Peihuan was not injured did she let out a sigh of relief. Seeing the concern in Yi Xiao's eyes, Jiang Peihuan softly said, "I'm fine." Then, Jiang Peihuan addressed Han Feng, "Get ready, we're going back to the mansion." "Yes." Jiang Peihuan helped Xiao Nanye get dressed, and once everything was set, Zhao Yong arrived. The poison in his body had not yet been neutralized. However, at this point, Jiang Peihuan couldn't be concerned about him. Looking at the person standing in front of her, she softly asked, "What are your plans moving forward?" "I plan to enter the palace tomorrow to report the truth to the emperor. As for how the emperor decides to handle it, I will abide by his decree. Thank you for today." After a moment of thought, Zhao Yong sincerely thanked Jiang Peihuan. "There's no need for thanks, I didn't really do much." Having said that, Jiang Peihuan immediately departed. After leaving the Huainan mansion, the group hastily made their way to the plum garden. However, as soon as Jiang Peihuan entered the plum garden, she saw Cheng Yang waiting there, holding a few medical books in her hands. "Master." If it weren't for Cheng Yang's sudden appearance, Jiang Peihuan might have almost forgotten about her. Upon seeing Jiang Peihuan, Cheng Yang quickly stepped forward to pay her respects. "I don't have time to talk to you today, you should go back first." After saying that, Jiang Peihuan proceeded to walk inside, instructing Han Feng and Yi Xiao, "Take Xiao Nanye to his room first." As Han Feng carried Xiao Nanye towards the room, Cheng Yang glanced at them a few times, her brows furrowing when she saw Xiao Nanye. After a moment of thought, she decided to follow them. Chapter 301, Curing the Poison. When Jiang Peihuan entered the room, she noticed that Cheng Yang had also followed her in. She immediately frowned. "Cheng Yang, I really don't have the time to deal with you today. Master, are you distressed about the cold poison inside King Cheng's body?" Upon hearing Cheng Yang's words, Jiang Peihuan furrowed her brows but still gently asked, "How do you know about the cold poison inside his body?" "It's written in the medical book." While speaking, Cheng Yang handed a medical book to Jiang Peihuan. Upon hearing this, Jiang Peihuan instinctively looked at the book. She then realized that this was the book that Xiao Nanye had once sent her, though she had never had the time to read it. Taking the medical book from Cheng Yang, Jiang Peihuan carefully read its contents. By the end, her eyes reflected her internal struggle. "Queen, is there a cure for the master's poison?" While Jiang Peihuan was reading, Han Feng didn't dare to disturb her. However, when she closed the book, he couldn't help himself anymore. Hearing Han Feng's words, Jiang Peihuan nodded. According to the medical book, there is indeed a way to counteract the cold poison inside Xiao Nanye, but I've never seen such a method. Noticing the puzzled expressions on the faces of the others, Jiang Peihuan continued, the book mentions that to counteract the cold poison, one must use poison against poison. We should gather poisonous scorpions, snakes, centipedes, and similar creatures, and then place Xiao Nanye amongst them. But these are all highly venomous creatures. How can we leave the master among them? Huoner. At this moment, the soft voice of Xiao Nanye from the bed reached their ears. Hearing his voice, Jiang Peihuan instinctively turned to him. Xiao Nanye, are you awake? Do you feel discomfort anywhere? Upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's question, Xiao Nanye shook his head. He then looked at her and softly said, one heard what you just mentioned. I think it's worth a try. Master. Before Jiang Peihuan could speak, Han Feng, with evident disagreement in his eyes, exclaimed. Hearing him, Xiao Nanye gave him a cold glance. Even if I get bitten to death, it's me who dies. Why are you so concerned? Han Feng was speechless. Seeing hesitation in Jiang Peihuan's eyes, Xiao Nanye continued, this medical book comes from the Medicine King Valley. Given that this method appears in it, there must be some feasibility to it. But as mentioned in the book, we need highly poisonous creatures. Where can we find them so quickly? Queen, I know someone who has them. Before Jiang Peihuan could finish speaking, Han Feng quickly interjected. Seeing her puzzled expression, he continued, young Master Chu has them. An hour later, Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nanye, along with others, went to the previously mentioned mansion. Not only was Chu Heng there, but Rong Mo was present too. Upon seeing Cheng Yang, Rong Mo's expression changed instantly. Rong Mo, one didn't come for you today, but to learn medical techniques. Hearing Cheng Yang's words, doubt filled Rong Mo's eyes. Seeing this, Jiang Peihuan stepped forward, whispering, what Cheng Yang said is true. After saying that, Jiang Peihuan looked at Chu Heng, recounting Xiao Nanye's situation and then continued, Han Feng mentioned that young Master Chu has these poisonous creatures, so? I indeed have these creatures, but they are my pets. Upon hearing the word pets, Jiang Peihuan's eyes flickered. Forget it. King Cheng's life is more important. Follow me. With that, Chu Heng headed inside the house. Seeing this, both Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nanye followed him. Upon entering the house, Chu Heng pressed something on a painting on the wall, and the wall in front of them automatically slid open. Chu Heng led the way, with Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nanye following closely behind. As soon as they entered, Jiang Peihuan felt a cold sensation, and there was a peculiar smell in the air. As they moved further in, Jiang Peihuan heard a rustling noise. Looking in the direction of the sound, she saw a sight that even her brave self found chilling. There were several pits in the ground, each filled with various venomous creatures, including scorpions, snakes, centipedes, and other creatures Jiang Peihuan had never seen before. Seeing all these, Jiang Peihuan couldn't hide her discomfort. Cheng Yang, on the other hand, screamed out loud. Hearing her scream, Chu Heng glared at her in displeasure. I told you not to come, but you insisted. If you scared my pets, I might just throw you in with them. Are you a devil? Cheng Yang shot back, glaring at him. Chu Heng approached Cheng Yang, but she quickly grabbed Rong Mo's hand for protection. Rong Mo, save me. Enough, stop fooling around, Rong Mo admonished. With his intervention, both Chu Heng and Cheng Yang quieted down. When Rong Mo was born, Chu Heng and Cheng Yang did not make a sound. All eyes turned to Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nanye. After a moment, Jiang Peihuan softly said to Chu Heng, young Master Chu, please allow me to take some of these creatures. No problem. Take whatever you need, he replied, but be careful. If you get bitten, it's not my responsibility. Queen, let me handle it, Han Feng immediately volunteered. However, Jiang Peihuan declined his offer. Facing Han Feng, she said, no need, one have a method. In front of everyone, Jiang Peihuan applied a medicine on herself, then wore gloves and used tongs to handle the creatures. She placed the venomous animals into a wooden barrel. Once she had collected enough, she sealed the barrel. An hour later, The venomous creatures were emptied into a large bathtub. Seeing Xiao Nanye preparing to undress, Jiang Peihuan was visibly torn. However, Xiao Nanye seemed calm. He reassured her, "It's all right, don't worry." Jiang Peihuan only nodded in response. Stripping off his outer clothes, Xiao Nanye was only in his undergarments as he stepped into the bathtub. Upon sitting down, a look of pain immediately crossed his face. After a moment, Xiao Nanye gripped the edge of the tub tightly, yet he didn't make a sound. Jiang Peihuan sat beside him. Seeing the expression on his face, her eyes were filled with concern. She couldn't say or do anything, all she could do was sit silently and wait. At first, Xiao Nanye held onto the tub's edge with just one hand. Later, he clung to it with both hands, veins protruding from the back of his hands. Jiang Peihuan clutched a handkerchief tightly, not daring to make a sound. Yet, noticing Jiang Peihuan's worried gaze, Xiao Nanye managed to whisper with a gentle smile, "Huan please wait outside for me." Chapter 302, Curing the Potion. Seeing the expression in Xiao Nanye's eyes, Jiang Peihuan didn't say anything but simply nodded gently. After she stepped out, the expression on Xiao Nanye's face instantly turned fierce. Jiang Peihuan was just outside the door. Even though Xiao Nanye didn't make any noise, she occasionally heard muffled grunts from him. Apart from Jiang Peihuan, Han Feng, Yi Xiao, and others were also waiting at the door. Seeing Jiang Peihuan's state, neither of them dared to approach or say anything, they just stayed quietly by her side. Time passed minute by minute. After more than half an hour, Jiang Peihuan realized there was no sound coming from the room. Jiang Peihuan's face changed instantly, but she forced herself to remain calm. Facing the room's direction, she softly called out, "Xiao Nanye?" There was no response. She called out again. When there was no reaction after several calls, Jiang Peihuan could no longer restrain herself and pushed the door open. Seeing this, Han Feng and Yi Xiao immediately followed. "Xiao Nanye?" Approaching the bathtub, Jiang Peihuan found him leaning over the edge, unconscious. The air was filled with the stench of blood. Xiao Nanye was dressed in a white undergarment, but now, half of it was stained bright red with blood. "Master!" Upon witnessing this scene, concern filled Han Feng's eyes. Jiang Peihuan didn't say anything but approached and held Xiao Nanye's hand. Only when she got closer did she notice that all the poisonous creatures in the bathtub were motionless. All of them were dead. Seeing this, Jiang Peihuan's eyes filled with shock. She reached out to check his pulse. Han Feng, observing her actions, dropped his hand and didn't dare to move. After Jiang Peihuan let go of Xiao Nanye's hand, Han Feng quickly asked, "Queen, how is the master?" "The cold poison in his body has been mostly expelled. He's just a bit weak from blood loss. After some good care and rest, he'll be fine." "That's great." Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, excitement filled Han Feng's eyes. Relief was evident in Jiang Peihuan's eyes as well. Although the method they used was based on what was written in medical books, she had been extremely worried when she saw Xiao Nanye go in. But now, Jiang Peihuan felt a bit fortunate. Looking at Han Feng and Yi Xiao, she said softly, "You two, prepare clean warm water. I'll change Xiao Nanye into clean clothes." "Yes." Knock, knock. After Han Feng and Yi Xiao left, there was a knock on the door. When Jiang Peihuan opened it, she saw Rong Mo, Chu Heng, and Cheng Yang standing there. Seeing Jiang Peihuan, Chu Heng spoke first. "I heard from Han Feng that King Cheng is all right now." "Yes, and I must thank you, young Master Chu. As long as the poison inside King Cheng can be removed, it's nothing. But when he wakes up, I still need to. Since King Cheng is okay, I won't disturb the Queen anymore." Before Chu Heng could finish speaking, he was abruptly interrupted by Rong Mo. As Rong Mo spoke, he directly dragged Chu Heng away. "Master, I'll come to see you later." Cheng Yang quickly stepped forward as he watched Rong Mo leave, and after a few words, she chased after Rong Mo. Soon, Han Feng prepared hot water. As Xiao Nanye was helped into the bath, Jiang Peihuan's eyes were filled with complex emotions. Xiao Nanyes' body was covered with various wounds, all bite marks. Using venom to counteract venom had been effective, but Xiao Nanya had suffered immense pain. After carefully applying medicine to Xiao Nanyes' wounds, Jiang Peihuan dressed him in clean clothes. By now, it was already late at night. In the early hours, Jiang Peihuan felt an increasing warmth beside her. It felt as though she was getting scalded. She instinctively opened her eyes. Upon waking, Jiang Peihuan realized that Xiao Nanya had developed a fever. His temperature was blazing hot, yet his face was as pale as death. Seeing Xiao Nanya in this state, Jiang Peihuan was filled with concern. She fetched some warm water and poured out medicine from a porcelain bottle. But no matter how she tried to feed him, Xiao Nanya couldn't swallow. In the end, she dissolved the medicine in water and drank it. Approaching the bed, she bent over and directly kissed Xiao Nanyes' lips, allowing him to swallow the medicinal liquid. After ensuring he took his medicine, she began to use acupuncture on him. An hour later, Xiao Nanyes' complexion improved somewhat. Both of them were soaked in sweat, but Jiang Peihuan ignored her own state and swiftly changed Xiao Nanyes' clothes. By dawn, Xiao Nanya, who was lying in bed, opened his eyes. He seemed a bit dazed. Noticing the warmth in his palm, he saw Jiang Peihuan by his side. A gentle warmth filled his eyes. Even though he was careful, Jiang Peihuan woke up when he moved his hand. "Xiao Nanya, you're awake?" Seeing him awake, Jiang Peihuan instinctively touched Xiao Nanyes' forehead. Feeling the normal temperature, she let out a sigh of relief. "Your fever's gone." As she spoke, a smile appeared in her eyes. Seeing her smile, the corner of his mouth also lifted. "You've worked hard last night, Huan. We don't need to say such things." Watching Xiao Nanya sit up, Jiang Peihuan continued, "Now that you're awake, I'll head back." "All right." Xiao Nanya had no objections to her plan. However, in the carriage, Jiang Peihuan softly said, "Although the cold poison inside you has been dispelled, you've lost a lot of blood and need to rest. Once we get back, I plan to bid farewell to my parents and return to the Cheng mansion." Even though she knew her parents wouldn't object, she didn't want to cause any trouble by letting Xiao Nanya recuperate in the Jiang residence. Hearing her words, Xiao Nanya simply nodded, "I'll follow your lead." Upon returning to the general's mansion, Jiang Peihuan went to Yanglin where both Jiang Hong and Shui Yang were present. After a moment of thought, she expressed her intentions to return to the prince's mansion. Hearing her words, before Shui Yang could respond, Jiang Hong interrupted, "Didn't you say you were going to stay here for a while? Why the sudden decision to leave?" Although he addressed Jiang Peihuan, his gaze was fixed on Xiao Nanya. Chapter 303, Zhao Yong entering the palace. Facing Jiang Hong's expression, Xiao Nanya briefly explained his condition. However, regarding the poisoning, Xiao Nanya only mentioned it was a leftover from a past battlefield. After all, if you need to recuperate, do it at General Mansion. In the Cheng Mansion, apart from you two as a couple, there are no elders. It might as well be better for King Cheng to recover at General Mansion before returning to the Cheng Mansion, Jiang Hong suggested immediately upon hearing Xiao Nanya's words. Yet, Xiao Nanya remained silent, turning his gaze to Jiang Peihuan. Seeing her nod, he smiled and addressed Jiang Hong, "In that case, thank you, father. You two should dine with me today." 111 Instruct the kitchen to prepare some blood-nourishing dishes. "Thank you, mother." After breakfast in Yanglin, Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nanya returned to Plum Garden. Just as they stepped into the courtyard, Jiang Peihuan saw a white figure rushing towards her. Xiao Bai had grown significantly. Despite only being a few months old, it now resembled a mature wolf, weighing over 300 pounds. As Xiao Bai charged towards Jiang Peihuan, she could feel a gust of wind. "Xiao Bai, don't mess around." Although Xiao Bai was sprinting directly towards her, it halted right in front of her, rubbing its big head affectionately against Jiang Peihuan. If it weren't for the fact that no matter how hard Xiao Bai tried, it couldn't wag its tail, Jiang Peihuan would have thought it was a dog rather than a wolf. Looking at Xiao Bai circling around her feet, She bent down and gently patted its head. Observing this, Xiao Nanye remarked in a slightly irritated tone, "Look at yourself. Do you even resemble a wolf anymore?" Seemingly understanding his words, Xiao Bai bared its teeth at him. Xiao Nanye's expression cooled instantly. "Dare to bare your teeth at me again, and I'll pull them out." Hearing this, Xiao Bai retracted its neck, no longer looking at Xiao Nanye, and turned its gaze back to Jiang Peihuan. Jiang Peihuan, having grown accustomed to their playful banter, smiled and said, "All right, go and play with Lu Er." Upon hearing her words, Xiao Bai ran off happily. While the servants of the general's mansion were terrified of Xiao Bai, they kept quiet knowing it was Jiang Peihuan's pet. In the following days, Xiao Nanye spent most of his time in Jiang Peihuan's plum garden. Jiang Peihuan dedicated herself to helping Xiao Nanye recuperate. While examining his pulse, she discovered various internal injuries from his past battles and wanted to provide thorough care for him during this period. Meanwhile, Zhao Yong entered the palace. Emperor Qi Ming looked at Zhao Yong, who was kneeling on the ground with a complicated gaze. After a long silence, he finally said, "You are the Prince of Huainan. After your father's death, you were supposed to inherit the title. However, I fear that once you marry and have children, the tragedy of your father might repeat. Hence, I've decided to grant you the title of Marquis of Huainan, and the title will not be hereditary." "Thank you, Your Majesty." Regarding Emperor Qi Ming's decree, Zhao Yong showed no surprise. After hearing the emperor's words, he immediately knelt down to express his gratitude. Seeing that Zhao Yong's demeanor was unchanged, with no sign of dissatisfaction in his eyes, Emperor Qi Ming looked slightly more pleased. After a moment of thought, he addressed Zhao Yong, "The Huainan queen might be your birth mother, but she dared to kill her husband, which is a heinous crime. Out of respect for the loyal legacy of the Chu family, one won't punish her. However, when you return home, confine her to a yard and do not let her out again." "Yes. Rise. You may leave now. I will take my leave." After bowing to Emperor Qi Ming, Zhao Yong left the Chenqing Palace. Upon leaving the palace, as Zhao Yong prepared to depart, someone approached him. "Your Highness, the Great Empress Dowager wishes to see you." In the Sinying Palace. After hearing about the death of the King Huainan, the Great Empress Dowager was promptly informed. Listening to the old nanny narration, the Great Empress Dowager couldn't help but curse, "Has such a waste to have died at the hands of a woman. The king's death is inconsequential, but King Cheng is still alive and well." Hearing this, the Great Empress Dowager's already sour expression deepened. Seeing the Great Empress Dowager's displeasure, the old maid hurriedly spoke, "Your Royal Majesty, it is said that Prince Zhao Yong is intelligent. With the King Huainan gone, you can fully utilize the prince to your advantage. Perhaps he is even smarter than his father. Now, there's no other choice. Your Royal Majesty, Prince Zhao Yong has arrived." As the Great Empress Dowager finished speaking, an eunuch's voice echoed from the entrance. "Let him in." Subsequently, Zhao Yong approached the Great Empress Dowager, kneeling down in deference. "Greetings, Your Royal Majesty the Great Empress Dowager. What has the Emperor planned for the Huainan mansion now that your father has passed?" "The Emperor has conferred upon me the title of Marquis of Huainan." Upon hearing the Great Empress Dowager's question, Zhao Yong briefly recounted the Emperor's decision. However, upon hearing the Emperor's arrangements, the Great Empress Dowager couldn't help but frown. Seeing Zhao Yong's calm demeanor, she questioned, "According to tradition, you should be the King of Huainan. Aren't you angry that the Emperor has stripped you of that title?" In response to Your Royal Majesty, 1 am truly grateful for the Emperor's decision. As Zhao Yong spoke, the Great Empress Dowager observed him closely, noting his sincere and nonchalant expression, which pleased her further. Looking at Zhao Yong, she continued, "Do you know that before his death, your father was working for me?" Hearing this, a look of surprise appeared in Zhao Yong's eyes. His mind raced back to the time when his father attempted to assassinate Xiao Nanye on the way to the western regions. He had assumed it was on the Emperor's orders, never suspecting that it might have been instigated by the Great Empress Dowager. Seeing Zhao Yong's silence, she pressed on, "You're an intelligent person. Surely you understand why I've summoned you today?" Your servant is slow-witted. One seek the great Empress Dowager's clarification. Hearing his response, a shadow crossed the great Empress Dowager's eyes. But after a moment's pause, she stated directly, I have only one purpose in summoning you. I hope you will serve me. What does the great Empress Dowager command? My command to you is simple. Kill Xiao Nanya. Even though he had suspected as much, Zhao Yong couldn't conceal his shock upon hearing these words. As long as you can kill Xiao Nanya, one can reinstate your title as the King of Huainan. So, will you agree to serve me? Hearing the great Empress Dowager's words, Zhao Yong's initial instinct was to refuse. Chapter 304. Informing the plan of Great Empress Dowager, but for some unknown reason, he suddenly nodded, yes. Looking at the Great Empress Dowager, Zhao Yong whispered, I dare not refuse the Empress Dowager's decree. You are indeed a smart person. Seeing Zhao Yong agree so readily, a satisfied look appeared in the Great Empress Dowager's eyes. Half a tea time later, Zhao Yong left the Sinning Palace. Prince, are we going straight back to the Huainan mansion? As they approached the palace gate, Zhao Yong's attendant asked him. Hearing this, Zhao Yong shook his head and whispered, to the general's mansion. When Zhao Yong entered the plum garden, Xiao Nanya and Jiang Peihuan were brewing tea in the pavilion. The water used for the tea was snow collected by Yu during a snowfall. When Zhao Yong was led into the pavilion, he saw Xiao Nanya reading in a chair while Jiang Peihuan was preparing tea. Jiang Peihuan's sleeves were neatly tied up. Whether she was brewing or pouring tea, in her hands, it looked like a painting. Hearing footsteps, both Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nanya looked towards the pavilion entrance. Prince, you can go in by yourself. When Xiao Nanya and Jiang Peihuan were together, made like Yu Lu and Yi Xiao wouldn't disturb them. When Yu led Zhao Yong to the pavilion, she left. Zhao Yong then lifted the curtain and entered. Seeing him come in, Jiang Peihuan gestured to the seat opposite and said softly with a smile, Prince Huainan, please have a sit. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's invitation, Zhao Yong sat down across from her. As he sat, Jiang Peihuan poured him a cup of tea. When she picked up the teacup, Zhao Yong quickly reached out to take it. When he took the teacup, Zhao Yong's hand accidentally touched Jiang Peihuan's fingertip. He reacted as if burnt and withdrew his hand quickly. The tea was spilled instantly. The boiling hot tea splashed everywhere. As the cup overturned, Xiao Nanya quickly reached out and shielded Jiang Peihuan with his sleeve. I'm sorry, I didn't hold it steady. Jiang Peihuan shook her head at Xiao Nanya and then looked at Zhao Yong. The tea was hot. Were you burned, Prince Huainan? I'm fine. Jiang Peihuan poured another cup of water for Zhao Yong. But before she could hand it to him, Xiao Nanya had already taken it. Placing the teacup in front of Zhao Yong, he said softly, Prince Huainan, try this tea. Thank you. Zhao Yong took a sip and then looked at Xiao Nanya. The emperor has conferred upon me the title of Huainan Marquis. Also, I was summoned by the great Empress Dowager today. Zhao Yong briefly repeated what the emperor and he discussed, then continued, Your Highness, the great Empress Dowager summoned me to plot against you. Hearing this, neither Xiao Nanya nor Jiang Peihuan showed any signs of surprise. Seeing this, Zhao Yong chuckled, it seems the king and Queen Cheng were already aware. Hearing Zhao Yong's words, both of them nodded in acknowledgement. A moment later, Xiao Nanya said to Zhao Yong, regardless, thank you, Prince Huainan, for bringing me this news. Prince, since the Empress Dowager has come to find you, she must see the results. How are you going to deal with the Empress Dowager? The Queen once accompanied the great general in battles. What do you think of the current situation in the northern border? You want to be stationed at the northern border. As soon as Zhao Yong's voice fell, Jiang Peihuan spoke directly. Jiang Peihuan stated affirmatively, and seeing this, admiration flashed in Zhao Yong's eyes. The Queen is truly clever. Once I'm at the northern border, the great Empress Dowager will be powerless against me. But Queen Cheng, today, I came to seek a favor from you. Prince, please tell. If I can help, I won't refuse. During this period of time, Zhao Yong had helped her a lot, so when Jiang Peihuan heard his words, she said directly. Meeting Jiang Peihuan's gaze, Zhao Yong whispered, "If I go to the northern border, there will be no one to care for my mother. I hope the queen can look out for her." "All right." Jiang Peihuan agreed without hesitation. A moment later, Zhao Yong left the plum garden. After he left, Jiang Peihuan looked at Xiao Nanye. "It seems the great Empress Dowager's tolerance towards you has reached its limit. If it wasn't for the threat I posed back then, she probably would have already sent assassins to the general's mansion." There was a mocking look in Xiao Nanye's eyes as he spoke. After a brief silence, Jiang Peihuan asked, "Have you thought about telling Emperor Qiming about this? Although my imperial brother has been lenient with me, all this is because I'm the King Cheng of Qi Kingdom. Once he knows I'm not from the Xiao family, I fear he might be the first to kill me." Hearing this, Jiang Peihuan didn't know how to respond. She had witnessed the ruthlessness of the royal family in her past life. "Never mind, let's not talk about this. Tomorrow is the day your sister marries into the Cao family. As the elder sister, have you prepared a gift? I almost forgot if you didn't mention it." Jiang Peihuan had been so engrossed in the plum garden these days she'd forgotten entirely. When Xiao Nanye heard this, his eyes revealed a hint of helplessness. As Jiang Peihuan was pondering whether to visit Jiang Ruyun that night, Jiang Ruyun herself came to the plum garden. "Your Highness, elder sister." Upon seeing Xiao Nanye, Jiang Ruyun promptly greeted him. Although Xiao Nanye's attitude towards her had softened a lot, Jiang Ruyun still looked a little scared when she saw Xiao Nanye. "You guys can have a chat." Xiao Nanye nodded to Jiang Ruyun and then told Jiang Peihuan before heading straight to his study. With Xiao Nanye gone, Jiang Ruyun noticeably relaxed. Facing Jiang Peihuan, she whispered, "Elder sister, I came today to discuss something." "What is it?" "Tomorrow is my wedding day. Mother has prepared many dowries for me to look respectable. But father disagrees." Jiang Ruyun continued when she saw the puzzled look on Jiang Peihuan's face. "Father says he must leave some assets for my brother and cannot let me take everything. Because of this, mother and father have been arguing for days. I really had no choice but to come to you for advice." Jiang Peihuan listened quietly as Jiang Ruyun spoke. Once she finished, Jiang Peihuan gently asked, "And you? What do you think?" "If possible, one naturally hope for more dowry. After all, this will be my foothold in the Cao family. But father's salary is not high, and now that my brother is born, I naturally can't be that selfish." Chapter 305, Jiang Ruyun's marriage. "So, I only plan to take half of the dowry my mother prepared for me." Upon hearing Jiang Ruyun's words, a hint of a smile appeared in Jiang Peihuan's eyes. Looking at her, Jiang Peihuan softly said, "I'm glad you think this way. Since you've made up your mind, just go ahead with it. As for your uncle and aunt, discuss it well with them. One believe they will agree." "Okay." Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Jiang Ruyun nodded. After exchanging a few words with Jiang Peihuan, she felt much more relaxed. Turning to Jiang Peihuan, Jiang Ruyun whispered, "Elder sister, King Cheng is waiting for you. I won't disturb you any longer. I'll go find my parents." Having said this, Jiang Ruyun prepared to leave. However, just as she reached the door, she heard Jiang Peihuan's voice, "Wait." Hearing Jiang Peihuan, Jiang Ruyun paused instinctively and turned around. She softly asked, "Elder sister, is there anything else you'd like to tell me?" "Just wait for me." Jiang Peihuan then walked directly into the study. Xiao Nanye was sitting in the study, holding a book that Jiang Peihuan had been reading earlier. He had overheard the conversation between the sisters. When he saw Jiang Peihuan enter, he put down the book. Approaching him, Jiang Peihuan took a box from the table in front of Xiao Nanye. Inside the box was a silver note, which old Madame Jiang had once given her. She had forgotten to take it with her at that time. Turning to Xiao Nanye, Jiang Peihuan softly asked, "I plan to give this silver note to Ruyun. Xiao Nanye, do you agree?" Had it been earlier, she wouldn't have asked him. However, since they were now married, she wanted to consult him. Smiling, Xiao Nanya replied, "Of course, one have no objections. Not to mention that this is originally your dowry. Even if you wanted to give all the silver in the mansion as a dowry to your sister, one wouldn't mind." Jiang Peihuan smiled at his words. Knowing Jiang Ruyun was waiting, she didn't linger. Holding the box, she walked out. Standing next to Jiang Ruyun, she handed over the box. Seeing the box, Jiang Ruyun looked puzzled and whispered, "Elder sister, what is this?" "It's an addition to your dowry." "No, you already added to my dowry before. How can I take more of your money?" Before Jiang Ruyun could refuse, Jiang Peihuan already pushed the box to her. "If I'm giving it to you, just accept it. With this silver, it might be easier to convince your aunt and uncle." Initially, Jiang Ruyun wanted to decline, but after hearing Jiang Peihuan's last words, she silently accepted the money, gave a formal bow and whispered, "Thank you, elder sister. It's getting late, you should go." Jiang Peihuan didn't know what Jiang Ruyun told her parents, but the next day, Zhu Rongfang was finally seen smiling. Jiang Peihuan had also arrived at the orchid garden early. Jiang Ruyun was getting ready, with Zhu Rongfang sitting beside her. Seeing Jiang Peihuan enter, Zhu Rongfang, with joy in her eyes, grabbed Jiang Peihuan's hand. "Huan one really don't know how to thank you. If it weren't for the money you gave, your sister's dowry would have been pitiful." At this point, gratitude filled Zhu Rongfang's eyes. Jiang Peihuan had never liked Zhu Rongfang in her previous life. However, in this life, she realized that nobody is perfect. No matter what, Zhu Rongfang was a good mother. And after Jian Mai's death, Zhu Rongfang genuinely took care of the child. For this reason alone, Jiang Peihuan's aversion to Zhu Rongfang vanished. So when she heard her words, Jiang Peihuan gently said, "Second aunt, Ruyun and I are sisters. There's no need to keep a tally." "Second sister-in-law?" Just as Zhu Rongfang was about to speak, Liu Xiu entered the room. "Third sister-in-law, you're here." Regardless of their usual disagreements, on this occasion, Zhu Rongfang greeted Liu Xiu with a smile. Today is Ruyun's wedding day. Naturally, one should come to enhance her dowry. As she spoke, Liu Xiu personally took a box from old Madame Liu and handed it to Jiang Ruyun. "Second sister, this is my gift for your dowry. Open it and see if you like it." "Thank you, third aunt." Upon hearing Liu Xiu's words, Jiang Ruyun immediately opened the box. Inside, it was filled with a collection of jewelry, gold, silver, and jade items. Everything was of exquisite quality. Liu Xiu had given a similar box to Jiang Peihuan when she married Xiao Nanya. Back then, Zhu Rongfang had reservations about Liu Xiu, especially since she hadn't gifted these when Jiang Ruyun originally married Zhao Fuqing. But now, seeing the jewelry, Zhu Rongfang's eyes were filled with complex emotions and a touch of shame. "Third sister-in-law, this is too precious. We are family, no need to be so formal. To show off a bit, as you know, the one thing I have plenty of is these items." The Liu's family were merchants serving the emperor and were incredibly wealthy. Although Liu Xiu was married off, she was the only daughter of the Liu family, and she married into the general's mansion. Every year, her family would send her countless jewelry. "I won't stand on ceremony with you then," Zhu Rongfang softly responded. For Jiang Ruyun's wedding, everyone from the Jiang family returned. It was only at night that the Cao family came to pick up the bride. Just like with Xiao Nanya, Cao Jun also faced challenges from the Jiang family. However, before the auspicious time, Jiang Changbai carried Jiang Ruyun to the bridal palanquin. "Cao Jun, I entrust my second younger sister to you. One hope you will take good care of her." Previously, Jiang Changbai didn't have a fondness for Jiang Ruyun. But lately, he noticed her change. Being a part of the Jiang family, he became more protective of her. Upon hearing this, Cao Jun sincerely replied, "Rest assured, elder brother, one will definitely take good care of Ruyun." Then, the wedding procession began heading towards the Cao family. Everyone from the Jiang family smiled happily. However, their happiness was shattered an hour later. "Eldest miss, second miss is in trouble. In the plum garden. Just as Jiang Peihuan was about to lie down with Xiao Nanye, she heard Lu Er's hurried voice. Chapter 306. Cao Jun was injured. What happened? Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Lu Er shook her head, indicating that she was not sure either. She only knew that something had happened to second miss. Today was the wedding day of Jiang Ruyun and Cao Jun. After thinking about it, Jiang Peihuan got up, preparing to visit the Cao's residence. Xiao Nanye accompanied Jiang Peihuan. When Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nanye arrived at the Cao mansion, Zhu Lan and Jiang Yuan were already there. Just as she entered the main hall, Jiang Peihuan heard crying. The voice turned out to be from Madame Cao. If anything happens to my son Jun one won't want to live either. Madam, brother Cao will be fine, you, out of my way. Seeing Madame Cao in tears, Jiang Ruyun stepped forward, wanting to console her. However, before she could touch Madame Cao, her hand was slapped away. Jiang Peihuan, who came over, saw this scene. She frowned but said nothing. From the words of the maids, Jiang Peihuan thought that Jiang Ruyun had encountered some trouble. But now, it seemed that Cao Jun was the one in trouble. Soon, Jiang Peihuan understood why Madame Cao treated Jiang Ruyun this way. If it wasn't for saving you, Jun would not have been injured like this. By the end of the sentence, Madame Cao's eyes were filled with anger. When Jiang Yuan and his wife saw how Madame Cao's behavior towards Jiang Ruyun, but considering Cao Jun's current condition, they kept silent. Huan Your Highness. At this moment, Zhu Rongfang saw Jiang Peihuan and quickly approached. The Cao family, though deeply worried about Cao Jun's injuries, still paid their respects upon seeing Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nanye. Jiang Peihuan stepped forward to support Madame Cao, then said softly, Madam, I have some knowledge of medicine. May I take a look at young Master Cao? Madam, please allow my elder sister to examine Brother Cao. Her medical skills are exceptional. Before Madame Cao could reply, Jiang Ruyun spoke first. Although she had some displeasure towards Jiang Ruyun in her heart, Lady Cao was still concerned about her son. So, she nodded to Jiang Peihuan and said, Then, thank you, Queen Cheng. Jiang Peihuan did not say anything and walked straight in. Xiao Nanye stayed by Jiang Peihuan's side, and no one dared to comment. Cao Jun lay on a bed, covered in blood. Jiang Peihuan reached out to feel his pulse. While checking his pulse, she frowned. She then carefully examined the wounds on Cao Jun's body. His injuries were not too severe. However, the tendons in Cao Jun's right wrist had been severed, meaning his right hand was now useless. Knowing that the Cao family had a scholarly background and that Cao Jun was destined to be a writer, this was devastating. But now, Queen Cheng, how is my Jun Madame Cao, who had been watching Jiang Peihuan's every move, immediately asked her after the examination. Hearing Madame Cao's inquiry, Jiang Peihuan said softly, Young Master Cao's injuries will heal with proper care and won't be life-threatening. However, the tendons in his right wrist have been severed, and I'm afraid he won't be able to use that hand anymore. What did you say? Upon hearing the first part of Jiang Peihuan's words, there was a glint of joy in Madame Cao's eyes. But after the latter part, Madame Cao's body swayed slightly. Jiang Ruyun, standing by her side, quickly supported her. At that moment, Madame Cao didn't push Jiang Ruyun away. Instead, she grabbed Jiang Peihuan's sleeve. Queen Cheng, what do you mean by that? Are you saying that Jun will be handicapped for life? Jiang Peihuan remained silent. But her silence was equivalent to a tacit agreement. Seeing Jiang Peihuan's silence, pain filled Madame Cao's eyes. It's all because of you, you jinx. When she turned to look at Jiang Ruyun, there was nothing but resentment in her eyes. She stretched out her hand and forcefully pushed Jiang Ruyun away. Madame Cao, you can't blame Ruyun for this. Besides, isn't it only natural for a husband to protect his future wife? Zhu Rongfang couldn't hold back any longer. Seeing Madame Cao lay hands on Jiang Ruyun, she directly embraced Jiang Ruyun. Though grateful that Cao Jun saved Jiang Ruyun, Zhu Rongfang had the notion of calling off the engagement when she heard that Cao Jun would not be able to use his hand anymore. She bluntly said, since Ruyun and young Master Cao have not yet performed the wedding rituals, perhaps this marriage should be called off. You all. Upon hearing Zhu Rongfang's words, everyone was stunned. Madame Cao was so enraged she was at a loss for words. Jiang Yuan, who was standing nearby, frowned upon hearing this. What nonsense are you talking about? Cao Jun is now handicapped. Do you want to watch Ruyun marry a handicapped man? Hearing this, Jiang Yuan looked displeased but did not retort. And Madame Cao, witnessing all this, had only hatred in her eyes. Just as she was about to speak, Jiang Peihuan interrupted, Uncle, Aunt, shouldn't we hear Ruyun's thoughts on this? After speaking, she looked at Jiang Ruyun. Ruyun, what do you think about this? Jiang Ruyun had been lowering her head. After hearing Jiang Peihuan's voice, she raised her head. She first glanced at Zhu Rongfang and Jiang Yuan, then at Madame Cao, finally stating firmly, I won't call off the engagement. I want to marry Cao Jun and be his wife. Ruyun, have you lost your mind? Didn't you hear what your elder sister said? Cao Jun is now handicapped. Even if he can't achieve official titles in the future, I don't mind. Even if he can't lift heavy objects in the future, it doesn't matter. I've practiced martial arts since I was young. I will take good care of him. So, father, mother, I want the wedding to continue. I want to marry Cao Jun. That's enough. Since this is second Miss Jiang's own decision, let's respect it. No one is to object. Seeing Zhu Rongfang about to protest, Xiao Nanye, who had been silent all along, said coldly. Upon hearing Xiao Nanye's words, neither Zhu Rongfang nor Madame Cao dared to speak again. In the end, Jiang Ruyun and Cao Jun performed the wedding rituals. However, Cao Jun was supported by someone. Originally, Madame Cao had many grievances against Jiang Ruyun, but when she saw the couple bowing to her, her heart softened. After the ceremony, Jiang Peihuan prepared to leave with Xiao Nanye. At that moment, Cao Jun woke up. Realizing his right hand was disabled, there was evident pain in Cao Jun's eyes. Chapter 307, Writing with the Left Hand. But when she learned that Jiang Ruyun chose to marry him against her parents' wishes, Cao Jun's eyes filled with even more emotion. At this moment, Jiang Peihuan came to understand the cause of Cao Jun's injury. It turned out that on the way back to the mansion, Cao Jun was ambushed by Yang Quan. Yang Quan was aiming for Jiang Ruyun in the bridal palanquin. He originally intended to kill her. Cao Jun was injured trying to save Jiang Ruyun. Understanding the reason behind this, Jiang Peihuan looked at Cao Jun with a touch of warmth in her eyes. After some thought, she said to Cao Jun, although your right hand can't hold a pen, your left hand is still fine. Meeting Cao Jun's puzzled gaze, Jiang Peihuan continued, I've heard that if one practices enough with their left hand, they can write as well as with their right. Write with the left hand? How can that work? Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, doubt flashed in Cao Jun's eyes. Standing next to Jiang Peihuan, Xiao Nanye, seeing Cao Jun's skeptical look, displayed a hint of displeasure. Why can't one write with their left hand? As he spoke, Xiao Nanye looked around, then directly took the paper and brush from the table. In front of everyone, he placed the white paper on the table and began to write with his left hand. Jiang Peihuan stood next to Xiao Nanye. Seeing the words he wrote on the paper, her eyes twinkled. Because what he wrote on the paper was none other than her name, Jiang Peihuan. Even though it was written with his left hand, the words were full of energy and vigor. Seeing this, Cao Jun was stunned, as if deep in thought. Jiang Peihuan turned to him, whispering, writing with the left hand isn't some fantastical tale. As long as you practice diligently, one day, you will be able to write like King Cheng here. Rest assured, Queen, I will practice diligently. Millimeter. Hearing this, satisfaction appeared in Jiang Peihuan's eyes. It was already late at night. Jiang Peihuan glanced at Jiang Ruyun, whispering, I'm heading back to the mansion. Take good care of young Master Cao. If anything happens, send someone to notify me. Elder sister, what about Yang Quan? You don't need to worry about that. I will handle it. Yes. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Jiang Ruyun nodded. Subsequently, Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nanya left the cow mansion. Upon mounting their horses, Jiang Peihuan couldn't help but ask the man beside her, "When did you learn to write with your left hand?" "I was bored when I was young, so I learned." Jiang Peihuan had imagined countless answers, even wondering if it was a military necessity, but never expected such an answer. Hearing his words, Jiang Peihuan looked somewhat speechless. The two quickly returned to the general's mansion. Upon entering the plum garden, Han Feng came forward to greet them. After paying respects to Xiao Nanya and Jiang Peihuan, Han Feng said softly, "Master, Queen, our people have nearly turned the entire capital upside down, but we still haven't found any news of Yang Quan." Regarding the fact that Han Feng couldn't find any news about Yang Quan, Jiang Peihuan was not surprised. Xiao Nanya was also not shocked. After hearing Han Feng's words, he calmly said, "Keep searching. We need to find him, dead or alive." "Yes." After Han Feng left, Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nanya entered the room. After the night's events, Jiang Peihuan was truly exhausted. At first, she was able to chat with Xiao Nanya, but soon after, he no longer heard her responses. Turning his head, Xiao Nanya found that Jiang Peihuan had fallen asleep. Gently dropping a kiss on her lips, he held her close. Somehow, only by holding Jiang Peihuan could he fall asleep peacefully. Despite having trouble sleeping, Xiao Nanya could doze off instantly, comforted by the faint scent of Jiang Peihuan. In the capital, at the post station, a figure stealthily sneaked into the station. It was Yang Quan. As he was about to turn around, he heard footsteps behind him. Without thinking, Yang Quan drew his sword, only to hear a soft feminine laugh. "Young Master Yang, I saved you, yet you want to kill me? Princess Zhuo Ma?" Looking at the smiling woman before him, Yang Quan softly inquired. "It's me." Zhuo Ma seemed to ignore the drawn sword, approaching Yang Quan with a smile. Seeing her approach, he quickly sheathed his weapon. After a brief silence, Yang Quan said, "Thank you for helping me today, Princess. But one don't want to cause you any trouble. I'll leave now." However, as he tried to leave, Zhuo Ma blocked him. Yang Quan looked at her, puzzled. "Young Master Yang," Zhuo Ma said, "right now, people are searching for you everywhere in the city except here. One think you should stay. Don't worry. I'll help you." Hearing Zhuo Ma's words, Yang Quan's doubts deepened. "Why are you helping me?" "Because the enemy of my enemy is my friend," she replied, "and besides, if it weren't for Miss Yang and my royal brother's deaths, perhaps we would be family by now." Convinced by Zhuo Ma, Yang Quan stayed at the post station. However, Xiao Nanya's subordinates were not to be underestimated. On the third day, Han Feng entered Plum Garden. "Master, Queen, we have news of Yang Quan." Hearing Han Feng's words, both Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nanya set their teacups down. Soon after, they rode towards the post station. Han Feng had the place surrounded, so when Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nanya arrived, Yang Quan, who was trying to escape, was caught. "Jiang Peihuan, if you have the guts, kill me now. Otherwise, I'll never spare you," he shouted angrily at her. Before Jiang Peihuan could reply, Xiao Nanya drew his sword. "Since you wish to die, I'll grant it." As he lunged at Yang Quan, someone suddenly intervened, blocking Xiao Nanya's blade. It was Xiao Juanhao. Seeing Xiao Juanhao block his attack, Xiao Nanya's eyes showed surprise, quickly replaced by mockery. Witnessing the mocking look, Xiao Junhao's grip on his sword trembled, but he held firm. Remembering his purpose there, Xiao Juanhao smiled and said, "Imperial uncle, I'm here on the emperor's orders to bring young Master Yang to the palace. So, I can't let you kill him. I hope you understand." Chapter 308. The Emperor summons. Xiao Junhao's smile deepened when he said the last sentence. Although there was a smile on Xiao Junhao's face, his eyes held no hint of amusement, only a cold, piercing gaze. With the decree from Emperor Qiming, Jiang Peihuan could only watch as Yang Quan was taken into the palace. Once Yang Quan was taken away, Jiang Peihuan realized that this matter would likely be downplayed. Sure enough, an hour later, news came from the palace. Yang Quan was punished with 20 lashes, but other than that, he faced no further consequences. The Cao family, upon hearing the emperor's decision, felt resentment. However, it was the emperor's decision, and even if they were unhappy, they could not voice their grievances. At the Yang residence. Your Highness, Prince Qing, I am truly grateful for your help this time. Lord Yang is too courteous, it's my duty. Upon hearing Xiao Junhao's words, Lord Yang said nothing more but glanced at Madame Yang. After a moment, Madame Yang placed a box next to Xiao Junhao. Then, Lord Yang said with a smile, Prince Qing, this is a small token of my gratitude. One hope you will accept it. Opening the box, Xiao Junhao found it filled with silver notes. Seeing the silver notes, Xiao Junhao's eyes widened in surprise. He promptly closed the box and pushed it back towards Lord Yang, saying, one cannot accept this. The Yang family has just contributed 100,000 taels to my father, the emperor. How can one take more from Lord Yang? Your Highness, what we gave to the emperor was for him. This is for you. If you don't accept it, it means you don't acknowledge our gratitude. This, Quan is the only son of the Yang family. If anything were to happen to him, how could one live on? So, these silver notes are a token of my gratitude to you and are nothing significant. Please, Your Highness, accept them. Hearing Lord Yang's words, Xiao Junhao looked conflicted. After a long pause, he finally took the box, saying, in that case, I will humbly accept. Jiang Peihuan only found out about the Yang family's tribute of 100,000 taels to Emperor Qiming the next day. When she learned of it, her eyes were filled with disbelief. In her past life, she knew that Emperor Qiming wasn't a wise ruler. But in this life, she felt he was even more incompetent. However, she couldn't voice these thoughts, neither in front of Xiao Nanya nor in front of her family. Soon, Jiang Peihuan had other matters to deal with, as disasters began breaking out all over the Qi kingdom. While there was heavy snowfall in the capital, Jiang Peihuan had been distributing porridge, so the situation there was manageable. But outside the capital, the disasters were severe. Due to these calamities, both Jiang Hong and Xiao Nanya were busy from dawn till dusk. On the evening of the third day, Jiang Peihuan and the entire Jiang family went to the Chrysanthemum Hall. The men of the Jiang family wore grave expressions. Seeing this, Jiang Peihuan turned to Jiang Hong and whispered, Father, has something happened at court? Hearing Jiang Peihuan's voice, Jiang Hong's expression softened slightly. However, he did not respond. Instead, he looked at Xiao Nanya. Imperial brother has already dispatched funds to various places, but this money seems like a drop in the ocean, making no ripple. This morning, against the advice of the ministers, the emperor demanded that each household contribute 50,000 taels of silver. Though Xiao Nanya's words were brief, Jiang Peihuan could easily imagine the scene in the palace. As for Emperor Qiming, Jiang Peihuan didn't even want to comment. Even for someone like Jiang Hong, a top general, his annual salary was only 2,000 taels. For some wealthy and influential families, 50,000 taels might not be much. But for many ordinary officials, it's almost like losing half their life. How could the emperor do this? This is just forcing. Hearing Xiao Nanya's words, the old Madame Jiang frowned, but given Emperor Qiming's status, she didn't say anything in the end. Enough, let's have dinner first. We can discuss this after eating. Hearing old Madame Jiang's voice, everyone began to eat. Just as they were about to start, Nanny Shu entered the room. Looking at old Madame Jiang, Nanny Shu said with panic, Madam, someone from the palace is here. Thieves summoned the great general, the King Cheng, and also the third master. The fact that Jiang Hong and Xiao Nanya were summoned to the palace wasn't surprising. But when they heard that Jiang Ren was also called, everyone looked concerned. Nanny Shu, who came to deliver the emperor's decree? It's Chief Wang. Hearing this, Jiang Peihuan immediately went outside. Xiao Nanya followed after a nod to the old madam. Wang Kuan was sitting in the Jiang's living room. Seeing Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nanye, he greeted with a smile, "Greetings to the king and queen Cheng. Chief Wang, why has the emperor summoned King Cheng at this late hour?" Hearing Jiang Peihuan's question, Wang Kuan lowered his voice. "The emperor is concerned about the disaster-hit areas. Prince Qing went to see him and mentioned the Liu family." After these words, he fell silent. Thanking him, Jiang Peihuan whispered, "Thank you, Chief Wang. You're too kind, Queen Cheng." A moment later, Jiang Hong, Jiang Ren, and Xiao Nanye entered the palace. Seeing them enter, Emperor Qiming said, "Rise. Great General Jiang, I've called you today because of the disaster situation. Jiang Ren, I assent your wife a daughter of the Liu family." After briefly speaking, Emperor Qiming turned his attention to Jiang Ren. Jiang Ren had probably guessed the emperor's intention, wanting the Liu family's money. Even though Liu Xiu was married to him, he couldn't represent the Jiang family. So when he heard the emperor's words, Jiang Ren simply nodded, "Yes." After that, he remained silent. Seeing Jiang Ren's attitude, Emperor Qiming frowned. At that moment, Xiao Juanhao laughed softly, "General Jiang, the Liu family is the top merchant of Qi Kingdom. During this national crisis, shouldn't they contribute? The Liu family are citizens of Qi Kingdom and should contribute. As the emperor's son, Prince Qing should do his part. I've heard that the Prince Qing mansion has many treasures. Besides the 50,000 taels, is there anything else the prince can offer? Why not just donate the entire mansion?" Before Jiang Ren could respond, Xiao Nanye spoke up. Though Xiao Nanye's voice was soft, his words were like slaps to Xiao Junhao's face. "Imperial uncle, you must be joking. Could it be that Imperial uncle is willing to donate the entire Cheng mansion?" Chapter 309, Donate voluntarily. Of course, I am willing to donate the entire Cheng mansion. Hearing Xiao Junhao's words, Xiao Nanye responded calmly. Xiao Juanhao originally made the statement in jest, not expecting that Xiao Nanye would truly be willing to donate his entire mansion. Hearing this, Xiao Junhao looked visibly upset. At this moment, Emperor Qiming chided Xiao Nanye, "What nonsense are you talking? If you donate your mansion, where will you live? On the streets? Of course not on the streets. Has my imperial brother forgotten? I am already married. I can live with my wife in the general's mansion. Enough of your nonsense." Hearing Xiao Nanye's words, Emperor Qiming interrupted with an icy stare. Looking at Xiao Nanye, he said with a gloomy face, "You, as a distinguished king, live with your wife in the Jiang family's house every day. What kind of image is that? As long as one can solve the problem for imperial brother, I don't mind staying with the Jiang family." Shut up." Before Xiao Nanye could finish, Emperor Qiming interrupted him with a cold gaze. Seeing this, Xiao Nanye didn't say anything else. When Jiang Hong and Jiang Ren heard their conversation, had smiles at the corners of their mouth. However, they lowered their heads silently and pretended not to hear anything. At this moment, Emperor Qiming looked at Jiang Ren. "Prince Qing is right. The Liu family is a royal merchant, so they should contribute to this disaster. What do you think, General Jiang?" "Your Majesty, I'm not familiar with the Liu family's situation. Therefore, Your Majesty should be asking the Liu family about this, not me." Hearing Jiang Ren's words, Emperor Qiming frowned. He had called in the Jiang family members to avoid appearing as if he was forcibly seizing assets. However, what Emperor Qiming did not know was that the Liu family was already prepared to take the initiative to donate. At the Liu family residence, Jiang Peihuan looked at the members of the Liu family, finally resting her gaze on Liu Hao, cousin Liu. It seems the emperor is intent on taking the Liu family's silver. Instead of waiting for the emperor to ask, the Liu family should take the initiative. This way, the Liu family will have some room to negotiate. "Eldest miss, we understand. I will go to the palace right away." After speaking, Liu Hao immediately stood up. "Xin, please take good care of the eldest miss and aunt. Elder brother, don't worry. Now, Most of the Liu family's affairs are managed by Liu Hao. After paying his respects to Liu Xiu, Liu Hao headed directly towards the palace. In the Qianqing Hall. Seeing that the family members were not responsive, Emperor Qiming's eyes were filled with anger. In that case, I will summon the Liu family members to see if they are willing to help alleviate my concerns. After saying this, Emperor Qiming turned to Wang Kuan. But just as he was about to speak, a young eunuch entered. "Your Majesty, Liu Hao has arrived to seek an audience." Hearing this, everyone in the hall was stunned. The smile on Xiao Junhao's face froze. Emperor Qiming was silent for a few seconds before saying, "Let him in." Liu Hao, dressed in white, slowly entered the Qianqing Hall. Approaching Emperor Qiming, Liu Hao gently knelt. "Your humble servant pays his respects to your Majesty. Get up." Although Liu Hao was a merchant, he exudes an extraordinary aura. As such, Emperor Qiming held a favorable impression of him. "Thank you, Your Majesty." Upon hearing Qiming's words, Liu Hao slowly got up. Once he stood up, Emperor Qiming asked, "Liu Hao, why have you come at this late hour?" "In response to Your Majesty, I've heard about the severe disasters in various regions. Thus, I've come to present a gift from the Liu family to Your Majesty." Hearing Liu Hao's words, astonishment filled Qiming's eyes. Seemingly unaffected by Qiming's surprise, Liu Hao continued after a brief pause, "Though our business has not been great this year, the Liu family still has substantial wealth. We'd like to donate 1 million gold taels to assist in rebuilding the affected areas." 1 million gold taels? Upon hearing the figure, joy overtook Emperor Qiming's features. When the term gold was mentioned, his elation intensified. Liu Hao nodded in affirmation. Meeting Qiming's gaze, he continued, "In addition to money, the Liu family has a significant amount of grain. The young miss of the general's mansion plans to distribute porridge outside the city soon. One thought we could join her." "Jiang Hong, you've raised a good daughter," Emperor Qiming murmured after a long pause, addressing Jiang Hong. Jiang Hong simply bowed his head in response, not uttering a word. At this point, Xiao Nanya spoke up, "Your Majesty, although the Liu family are merchants, their contributions to the Qi kingdom are notable. Perhaps they deserve a reward." Emperor Qiming chuckled, considering that the Liu family is the wealthiest in Qi kingdom, one doubt they are in need of more jewels or riches. Maybe something practical would be more appropriate. Emperor Qiming, with a hint of jest, added, "You seem to have prioritized your wife's family over everything else." Despite the lightheartedness, Qiming sincerely said, "In recognition of the Liu family's loyalty, I shall exempt them from taxes for the next 2 years." "Thank you, Your Majesty." Considering the Liu family's vast business network, 2 years of tax exemption is a colossal amount. Gratefully, Liu Hao knelt in appreciation. Seeing his gratitude, Emperor Qiming's mood lifted. "It's getting late, all of you should head home." Without giving anyone another glance, he departed for the inner hall. Watching the emperor's receding figure, Xiao Junhao's eyes darkened. His plans had been thwarted. "Imperial uncle is really good at scheming," Xiao Junhao muttered sarcastically, observing Xiao Nanya chatting jovially with Jiang Hong. Hearing this, Xiao Nanya stopped, turned, and coldly responded, "It's just a pity that all your schemes amounted to nothing. Father, third uncle, let's return to the mansion." Upon hearing Xiao Nanya's words, Jiang Hong and the others nodded at Xiao Junhao and left. It wasn't until they got into the carriage that Jiang Hong looked at Xiao Nanya and said, "Your Highness, Prince Qing doesn't look like a good person. Be careful in your future dealings with him. There's no need to worry. After all, I am still his elder. If he behaves disgracefully, I won't hesitate to teach my nephew a lesson. Elder brother, you don't need to worry about King Cheng. His wit is more than enough to handle the Prince Qing." By the time Xiao Nanya and his entourage returned to the general's mansion, Jiang Peihuan and Liu Xiu had also arrived. Realizing that everything had ended perfectly, Jiang Peihuan heaved a sigh of relief. Chapter 310. Fainted Jiang Peihuan had less than a day of relaxation. The morning meal of the next day had long passed when Jiang Hong and Xiao Nanya finally came out of the palace. Jiang Peihuan was reading in a pavilion in the plum garden. Seeing the man enter the courtyard, she softly asked, "Why was the morning court session so long today?" The man walked into the pavilion and sat down beside Jiang Peihuan. He took her tea and drank it all at once. After putting down the teacup, Xiao Nanya finally said to Jiang Peihuan, "There's been an uprising in Anzhou." And then, upon hearing the man's words, Jiang Peihuan's eyelids twitched. In addition to the uprising, there are also local rebellions. The emperor sent me to suppress them. Why you? Aren't several of the prince in the court adults now? Imperial brother doesn't want the princes to have too many military achievements. Emperor Qiming was not only reluctant for the princes to gain military merits but also didn't want them to have too much contact with the military. Thus, over the years, all the battles were entrusted to Xiao Nanya. Jiang Peihuan was speechless about Emperor Qiming's intentions. Jian Peihuan was simply speechless at Emperor Qiming's thoughts. After a moment of silence, Jiang Peihuan looked at the man beside her. "When will you depart?" "Tonight." "Who will accompany you as deputy generals?" "Huainan Marquis and your elder brother." Jiang Peihuan had breakfast prepared for Xiao Nanya and then began packing for him. She also packed for Jiang Changbai. That evening, the general's mansion had their dinner in the Chrysanthemum Hall early. Right after dinner, Deputy General Liu came to report that the Huainan Marquis had arrived. When Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nanya reached the entrance of the general's mansion, they saw Zhao Yong on horseback. Zhao Yong had originally planned to ask for permission to go to the northern border, but he hadn't expected the sudden outbreak of a disaster. Seeing Xiao Nanya and Jiang Changbai, Zhao Yong got off the horse. "Your Highness, young general." "Huainan Marquis." Xiao Nanya nodded at Zhao Yong, while Jiang Changbai greeted him with a gesture. "Elder brother, I've handed over the luggage prepared for you to Chang'an." "All right, understood." Subsequently, Jiang Peihuan said to Xiao Nanya, "I've given your luggage to Han Feng. Wait for my return." "Yes." Jiang Peihuan had grown accustomed to seeing off Jiang Hong and Shui Yang into battles since childhood, so she wasn't particularly sentimental now. After speaking a few words with Xiao Nanya and Jiang Changbai, she had Yu hand a package to Zhao Yong. Seeing the package handed to him by Yu, Zhao Yong looked puzzled. Jiang Peihuan whispered, "I know the Marquis lacks nothing, but I've prepared some medicines for you. Please take them with you." "Thank you, Queen Cheng." Hearing this, Zhao Yong gave a formal bow to Jiang Peihuan. "Don't worry about Madame Zhao. I'll have people take extra care of her." "Thank you. It's getting late. Let's depart." Hearing Jiang Changbai's voice, Xiao Nanya gently touched Jiang Peihuan's long hair, then whispered with a smile, "I'll send you letters. Take care on your journey and return soon." Despite their reluctance, Xiao Nanya mounted his horse, Zui Yun. Watching him disappear from sight, Jiang Peihuan then returned to the general's mansion. "Queen, are you all right?" Yu and Lu following Jiang Peihuan, noticed her silence as they walked to the plum garden. Yu couldn't help but ask, "I'm fine. Let's start preparations. From tomorrow, we'll distribute porridge outside the city." The reason for this was Jiang Peihuan knew that of all the places in Qi Kingdom, only the capital was unaffected. Thus, many refugees would be coming. But the city guards wouldn't allow the refugees in. So, the best solution was to distribute porridge outside the city gates. As soon as the disaster occurred, everyone got busy. News of Xiao Nanya's departure reached the Sinning Palace. Hearing this, the great Empress Dowager's eyes lit up with joy. "Prepare to send those items to Anjou. Your Royal Majesty, those things can cause an epidemic. Anjou is crowded now. An outbreak would lead to countless deaths." The great Empress Dowager looked at the old nanny, disdain evident. "As long as Xiao Nanya, that bastard, dies in Anjou, what's a few deaths?" Although the Empress Dowager heard the news, there was a hint of disdain in her eyes. "As long as Xiao Nanya, that bastard, dies in Anjou, what's a few deaths? As long as Xiao Nanya never returns, even if it means the entire population of Anjou dies, I won't hesitate, she continued. Though the old nanny already knew of the great Empress Dowager's obsession with killing Xiao Nanye, she was still visibly shaken by these words. However, when the great Empress Dowager looked her way, she nodded in agreement. Yes, I will make the arrangements. As the old nanny left, a dark shadow passed over the great Empress Dowager's eyes. Jiang Peihuan was unaware of these palace intrigues. The refugees arrived faster than Jiang Peihuan had anticipated. The next day, as she went to distribute porridge outside the city, she noticed a large crowd of refugees near the city gate. Initially, some refugees tried to force their way into the city. Only after the gate guards killed over a dozen did the rest stay put outside. When Jiang Peihuan first began distributing the porridge, some tried to snatch it away. She took out a whip and personally disciplined them until they began to line up. Elder sister, why are there so many refugees? Jiang Xijin and Jiang Songbai had returned to the general's mansion because of the porridge distribution. Liu Xin had also come to help. Hearing Jiang Xijin's question, Jiang Peihuan replied, "This isn't even the worst of it. These are from the nearby areas. In a couple of days, people from more distant places will arrive. That's when it'll truly be overwhelming." As she spoke, she began distributing the porridge. From morning till evening, she hardly took a break. As night approached, Jiang Peihuan stood up, feeling a sudden wave of dizziness. She collapsed, unconscious. However, at this moment, Jiang Peihuan felt her vision turn black. Then, she fainted. Elder sister. Jiang Songbai was the closest to Jiang Peihuan. When he saw Jiang Peihuan fall to the side, he quickly reached out and hugged her. Elder sister? Sister Jiang? Seeing the unconscious Jiang Peihuan, Jiang Xijin and Liu Xin rushed over. Cradling Jiang Peihuan in his arms, Jiang Songbai said to Jiang Xijin, "Xijin, I'll take elder sister back to the mansion. You handle things here. I want to go back too." "No," eldest sister said, "once the distribution starts, it can't stop. Big brother has already gone to Anju, you have to stay." Liu Xin, witnessing this, said, "Songbai, take sister Jiang back. I'll stay with Xijin." "Thank you, cousin." After nodding to Liu Xin, Jiang Songbai carried Jiang Peihuan onto a carriage. When they reached the general's mansion, he took Jiang Peihuan from the carriage and yelled, "Someone, call the doctor, quickly." But Shui Yang, seeing the still unconscious and pale-faced Jiang Peihuan, turned to the doctor. "How is Huan Er's health now? Why is she so pale?" "Madam, don't worry. The young lady is just exhausted. Coupled with her pregnancy, it led to her fainting. A few days of proper rest should make her fine. Do you need to prescribe any medicine?" "No need. The eldest miss is in excellent health. Just adjust her diet and eat more nutritious foods. Medicines have their side effects, and given her current situation, it's not suitable for her to take any. Yu Zhen, remember to reward the doctor when you send him out." Old Madame Jiang looked at Nanny Shu and said in a low voice, "Yes." Nanny Shu replied softly when she heard the old madam's words. The entire Jiang mansion was filled with joy upon learning of Jiang Peihuan's pregnancy. By the time Jiang Peihuan woke up, it was already night. As she opened her eyes, she was somewhat dazed. "Huan Er, you're awake." The old Madame Jiang had been asked to rest because of her age, but Shui Yang, worried about her daughter, had been keeping vigil in the plum garden. Seeing Jiang Peihuan's eyes flutter open, she immediately approached. Upon seeing Shui Yang sitting by her bed, Jiang Peihuan quickly sat up. "Mother, why are you here? You must be careful now that you are pregnant. No more rash actions." "Child." "Mother, what are you saying?" "I'm saying that you're pregnant, Huan Er. You're going to be a mother." Shui Yang's eyes sparkled with happiness. However, hearing these words, Jiang Peihuan was completely stunned. She was pregnant. She was going to be a mother. She lowered her gaze to her still flat belly, reaching out to gently touch it. While there was no visible bump, The realization that a new life was growing inside her felt incredibly surreal. Apart from the joy, there was a hint of complexity in Jiang Peihuan's eyes. This life was different from her previous one. In her past life, by this time, the Jiang family was on the brink of collapse, and she had no chance to get married or have children. But now, she was already expecting her own child. Huan this is a joyous occasion. You should inform King Cheng, Shui Yang reminded her. Your father has already gone to the palace to share the good news. Given Xiao Nanyes's unique position, he should have been the one to report the happy news in person. But with his absence and Jiang Peihuan's indisposition, Jiang Hong decided to go on their behalf. In the imperial palace, within the Qianqing Hall. You said what? Emperor Qi Ming's eyes were wide with surprise, so much so that he accidentally dripped ink onto the paper from his brush. Seeing the emperor's delighted expression, Jiang Hong proudly announced, "My daughter, Huan is pregnant. I'm about to become a grandfather." The emperor's joy was palpable, but when he saw Jiang Hong's smug expression, he suddenly felt a bit uncomfortable. After all, in terms of familial relations, he would only be an imperial uncle to the child, while Jiang Hong would be a grandfather. Yet, thinking of the child was Xiao Nanyes, the emperor's eyes twinkled with happiness again. Turning to Wang Kuan, he ordered, "Go to the storeroom and see if there are any tonics. Let the great general take them later to help Queen Cheng to regain her strength." At that moment, a eunuch announced outside, "Your Majesty, the Empress wishes to see you." "Let the Empress in," the Emperor commanded. Soon after, the Empress entered the Qianqing Hall. As Jiang Hong was about to bow to the Empress, she stopped him. "Great General, no need for formalities. I've heard about Queen Cheng's pregnancy and have prepared some tonics. Please take them with you when you leave the palace," she said. "Thank you, Your Royal Majesty," Jiang Hong replied. The Empress smiled, "You're too polite. King Cheng grew up before our eyes, and we are quite fond of Pei Huan. Now that she's pregnant, she should rest and not move around much. After 3 months, let her come to the palace to chat." Understood. Ever since Jiang Peihuan discovered the poison in the Empress had been extremely fond of her. Hence, upon hearing of her pregnancy, she immediately came over and had many tonics prepared for her. Chapter 312. Grandmother is waiting for your return. Therefore, when Jiang Hong went to the plum garden, he was followed by a pile of tonics. Seeing all the items on the table, Jiang Peihuan was taken aback. She looked at Jiang Hong and couldn't help but ask, "Father, why are there so many tonics?" "They are all gifts from the Emperor and the Empress. I'm not surprised the Emperor has given gifts since he and King Cheng have always been close. But why does the Empress' gift seem even more generous than the Emperor's?" Jiang Peihuan was aware of the reason, but hearing Jiang Hong's words, she gently replied, "Xiao Nanye grew up in the palace, and the Empress took good care of him. One suppose it's out of happiness." Hearing this, Jiang Hong said nothing more. Jiang Hong looked at Jiang Peihuan with a smile. "Huan for now, you should rest at home and stop distributing porridge. Leave such matters to your younger sister. Also, remember to send a letter to His Highness." "I know. Father, Mother, it's getting late. You both should return to Yanglin and rest. Huan how about I stay with you tonight?" Upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Shui Yang softly responded, a worried look in her eyes. However, Jiang Peihuan couldn't help but laugh. "Mother, haven't you forgotten that one studied medicine? You're still treating me like a child. Rest assured, with you and Yi Xiao here, it'll be fine." Hearing this, Shui Yang and Jiang Hong left Plum Garden together. Having slept for a while, Jiang Peihuan wasn't sleepy now. After they left, she turned to Yu who was by her bed. "Prepare the ink and brush for me." "My queen, are you writing to King Cheng?" Jiang Peihuan didn't speak but nodded with a smile. Everyone was overjoyed at the news of Jiang Peihuan's pregnancy, but some weren't pleased, like Xiao Juanhao. "You said Jiang Peihuan is pregnant?" "Yes, I just got the news." Hearing Xiao Junhao's words, Pei Wu spoke softly. Xiao Junhao's eyes darkened. "She's actually pregnant." After saying this, his expression grew complex. Where's the princess consort? She's in the main courtyard. Master, do you want to? Before Pei Wu could finish, Xiao Juanhao took big strides towards the main courtyard. Jiang Yang was reading when she heard that Xiao Juanhao had arrived. She quickly went to greet him. Greetings, Your Highness. Why are you? Before Jiang Yang could finish, Xiao Juanhao suddenly swept her up in his arms. The servants in the room, seeing this, quickly exited. Confused, Jiang Yang was pressed onto the bed. But as she saw Xiao Juanhao lean in, she instinctively wrapped her arms around his neck. Yet soon, Jiang Yang was left stunned. When Xiao Juanhao buried his head in her neck, he softly called out, Huan Er. Even though the words were whispered faintly, Jiang Yang could hear them clearly. Almost immediately, she thought of Jiang Pei Huan. The man's actions grew more and more forceful, yet Jiang Yang did her best to cooperate, enduring the pain. Jiang Pei Huan, however, had no idea of what was happening in the Prince Qing mansion. After handing over the letter she had written to Yi Xiao, Jiang Pei Huan drifted into a peaceful sleep. In the time that followed, Jiang Pei Huan anxiously awaited Xiao Nanyes's reply. However, instead of a letter, she was greeted with news of a plague outbreak in Anju. You're saying that there's been a plague outbreak in Anju? Facing Yi Xiao, Jiang Pei Huan asked with concern evident in her eyes. Yi Xiao's expression was equally grim. She nodded, yes, the entire Anju has been affected. Not only have the common people been infected, but many soldiers have also died or been seriously affected. Where is Xiao Nanya now? His Highness is in the army. Upon hearing Yi Xiao's words, Jiang Pei Huan swayed slightly. My queen. Seeing Jiang Pei Huan's change in complexion, Yi Xiao instinctively moved to support her. However, Jiang Pei Huan gripped her arm tightly. Yi Xiao, prepare some medicinal herbs, and make sure to gather a large quantity. We're going to Anju. You can't go. One absolutely won't allow you to travel to Anju. An hour later, everyone in the general's mansion knew of Jiang Pei Huan's intention to head to Anju. Jiang Yang was the first to object. Seeing Jiang Pei Huan seated, Shui Yang's eyes flared with anger. You've only been pregnant for just over a month. If something happens to you on the journey, what are we to do? Towards the end of her sentence, Shui Yang's eyes were tinged with red. Although Jiang Hong didn't voice any objections, his expression was extremely grave. Yet, he turned to Jiang Pei Huan, softly speaking, Huan Er, are you sure about this? Although Anju is dangerous, with Xiao Nanyes's exceptional intelligence, he surely can. Father, my decision to go to Anju isn't just for Xiao Nanye. Before Jiang Hong could finish, Jiang Pei Huan gently interrupted. Facing her parents, she continued, when one was 13, one followed you to the battlefield, witnessing the life and death struggles of war. For soldiers, dying on the battlefield is an understandable fate. But dying from a plague, it's tragically innocent. Now that I've learned medical skills, one can't just stand by. So, mother, father, please let me go. Both of you, let Huana go. At this moment, the old Madame Jiang entered the room, supported by Nanny Shu. Mother! Grandmother! Seeing the old madam, everyone bowed. Jiang Pei Huan moved to assist her. Old Madame Jiang, looking at Jiang Pei Huan, gently patted her hand and said with a smile, on your trip to Anju, make sure to take care of yourself. Especially now, since you're carrying a child. Grandmother, rest assured, one will return safely. You must not forget, in a month, it will be your 50th birthday. One will definitely come to celebrate with you. Hearing this, tears welled up in old Madame Jiang's eyes. Gripping Jiang Pei Huan's hand, she said, 111 wait for your return. If you don't come back, one won't be celebrating my 50th birthday. That very night, Jiang Pei Huan set off from the Jiang mansion with Yi Xiao. For this trip to Anju, she only brought Yi Xiao. She didn't bring any of her siblings, as she was willing to risk her life but not theirs. Master, as Jiang Pei Huan was about to board the carriage, she heard a distant voice. My queen, it seems to be Miss Cheng. Chapter 313, Arriving at Enju Master. When Yi Xiao spoke, Cheng Yang also reached Jiang Peihuan's carriage. Upon hearing the voice, Jiang Peihuan lifted the curtain of the carriage. She immediately saw a sweating Cheng Yang, who was wearing a white dress, looking very neat and refreshing. "Master, you're heading to Enju, right? Take me with you." Meeting Jiang Peihuan's gaze, Cheng Yang spoke without hesitation. "No." Seeing the puzzled look on Cheng Yang's face, Jiang Peihuan spoke calmly, "Enju is now riddled with the plague. I have important things to handle there and really can't afford to look after anyone. That's why I can't take you. Master, you don't need to look after me. I can also help save people. Although I've learned medicine for a short time, one have acquired some basic knowledge. I'm sure I can help in Enju. Master, please, take me with you. If you don't agree, once you leave, I'll go there on my own." Hearing this, Jiang Peihuan frowned, a stormy look in her eyes. "Are you threatening me?" Seeing Jiang Peihuan's displeased face, Cheng Yang quickly shook her head. "No, I'm not threatening you, Master. I truly wish to go to Enju. One grew up there, it's my home. How can I stand by and watch it be destroyed?" As she said the last sentences, her eyes filled with tears, and to this, Jiang Peihuan looked surprised. After a brief silence, Jiang Peihuan asked, "If you go to Enju, does young Master Rong know? Why should he know about my affairs?" Jiang Peihuan turned her gaze to Yi Xiao, whispering, "Go see young Master Rong and inform him about this." "Yes." As Yi Xiao prepared to leave, the sound of hoofbeats echoed. Turning to look, she saw Rong Mo on horseback. She turned around and saw Rong Mo on the horse. Upon seeing him, Cheng Yang looked slightly startled, but Jiang Peihuan remained calm. "Queen Cheng?" Arriving beside the carriage, Rong Mo nodded in greeting to Jiang Peihuan. "Young Master Rong, Cheng Yang wants to accompany me to Enju. What's your view on this?" Even though Rong Mo has always been indifferent to Cheng Yang, Jiang Peihuan knew he took care of her in his own way. So, she wanted Rong Mo's consent on this matter. Hearing her words, Rong Mo turned to Cheng Yang. "Rong Mo, let me tell you, whether you agree or not, let her go if she wishes." Cheng Yang's words were cut off by Rong Mo continuing. Rong Mo said, "I'll accompany the queen to Enju." Jiang Peihuan didn't refuse Rong Mo's proposal. Shortly after, Cheng Yang boarded the carriage, and Rong Mo rode beside them. The group set off at a brisk pace towards Enju. Although it would normally take 3 days of non-stop horse riding from the capital to Enju, Jiang Peihuan, being pregnant, couldn't travel so hastily, despite her concerns for Enju. Chapter 314, Saving People. Upon entering the city, Jiang Peihuan noticed that although there were fewer corpses than outside the city, there were still many. She turned to the man beside her and said, "We can delay it a bit. Let's go back and rest first." Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Xiao Nanya frowned and softly replied. However, Jiang Peihuan, without responding verbally, only looked at him calmly. In the end, Xiao Nanya gave in and led her directly towards the military camp. At the entrance of the camp, Jiang Peihuan observed that the condition of the soldiers was relatively good. However, after following Xiao Nanya to the tents behind, she discovered the situation was dire. Countless soldiers were packed inside the tents, with exhausted military doctors moving amongst them. Seeing this, Jiang Peihuan immediately stepped forward, signaling to Yi Xiao and Cheng Yang to help examine the soldiers. Yes. The soldiers were taken aback by the sudden appearance of Jiang Peihuan and her party. However, when they saw Xiao Nanya, no one voiced any objections. Jiang Peihuan focused on taking the pulse of the soldiers, but the results made her furrow her brows. 4 hours later, she finally took a break. "Huan rest for a bit," said Xiao Nanya, who had been careful not to disturb her while she was working. As soon as she paused, he quickly stepped forward to support her. "Xiao Nanya, are there any operational pharmacies left in the city? Do you need medicinal herbs?" Hearing her question, Xiao Nanya instinctively responded. After she nodded, he continued, "Tell me what you need, and I'll have Han Feng fetch it. Jiang Peihuan took a pen and paper from Yi Xiao and wrote down a long prescription, handing it to Han Feng. Get as much of the herbs on this list as possible, she instructed. Yes. After Han Feng departed with the prescription, Jiang Peihuan turned to the soldiers in the tent and said, "Don't crowd so many people in one tent. It will exacerbate the condition. Reduce the number of people in each tent by half, and boil all the soldiers' clothes and equipment in hot water." The soldiers looked baffled upon hearing her instructions. Seeing their reaction, Xiao Nanya sternly said, "Didn't you hear the Queen orders?" Snapping back to reality, they immediately responded, "Greetings to Queen Cheng." Now that they knew Jiang Peihuan was Xiao Nanya's wife, their attitudes changed instantly. Jiang Peihuan, however, didn't mind. Suddenly, a man in armor rushed into the tent shouting, "Medic, quickly check on old Liu. He can't hold on much longer." Without acknowledging Xiao Nanya or noticing Jiang Peihuan, he grabbed the medic. However, as the man tried to leave, Jiang Changbai stopped him. "What happened to General Liu? Those damned enemies poisoned him." Old Liu fell into their trap. "Xiao Nanya, let's go and take a look," Jiang Peihuan suggested, noticing the medic being pulled away hastily by the armored man. Upon entering the camp, Xiao Nanya didn't make a sound but just nodded. When they stepped out of the tent, Jiang Peihuan heard yelling. Following the noise, she saw a man on a stretcher with a full beard. It was General Liu. "General Wan, let me go first." "How can one examine General Liu if you're holding me like this?" said the military doctor. The man who was grabbing the military doctor, General Wan, quickly released him upon hearing this. From Jiang Peihuan's perspective, she noticed the ashen complexion on General Liu's face, a clear indication that he had been poisoned. After checking General Liu's pulse, the military doctor shook his head and said, "It's snake venom, and there's no antidote." "What nonsense are you talking about? Aren't you an military doctor? If you don't treat him, 111 cut you down," threatened General Wan. "Das Han, stop." Xiao Nanya interjected with a cold look when General Wan actually pulled out his blade. It was at that moment that General Wan noticed Xiao Nanya. Seeing him, he immediately stopped, his eyes filled with anguish. "Your Highness, how about General Liu?" "Xiao Nanya, one can save him," Jiang Peihuan said. "You have a way. Then hurry up and save him." General Wan, desperate and focused only on Jiang Peihuan's words, tried to grab her. However, he was stopped by Jiang Changbai. "Wan, calm down. This is the Queen. Queen Cheng." Surprised, General Wan looked at Jiang Peihuan in a new light. Jiang Peihuan, unperturbed, calmly approached General Liu. Checking his pulse confirmed the army doctor's diagnosis. It was indeed snake venom. Then, Jian Peihuan walked to General Liu's side. She reached out and felt his pulse. Just as the military doctor said, General Liu was indeed poisoned by snake venom. Releasing General Liu's wrist, Jiang Peihuan told Xiao Nanya, "I can use silver needles to stimulate his acupoints, gathering all the venom to one location. But someone will have to suck out the venom. Would you?" Before she could finish, General Wan interrupted, "I'll do it. 111 suck out the venom. Just treat General Liu." Jiang Peihuan, familiar with the blunt way military men communicate, said, "Are you sure, General Wan? This venom is potent. Even if you spit it out, it'll still harm you. It doesn't matter. If it saves General Liu, it's worth it," General Wan replied, cutting her off again. Jiang Peihuan, unoffended, simply nodded and began her treatment. She quickly inserted several silver needles into General Liu's body, concentrating on his wrist. Estimating the timing, she asked Xiao Nanya for a dagger. He handed one over, and Jiang Peihuan swiftly cut a small slit on General Liu's wrist. General Wan immediately stepped forward, sucking out the blackened, venom-filled blood from General Liu's wrist. It wasn't until the blood turned a healthy red that Jiang Peihuan stopped him. "That's enough." By then, General Wan looked dizzy but anxiously asked, "Queen Cheng, is General Liu safe now?" When he noticed Xiao Nanya occasionally breaking into smiles, his bewilderment deepened. King Cheng, could it be that you have lost your mind? Elder brother, Huan is pregnant. I'm about to become a father. I'm going to have a child soon. Did you just said Huan is pregnant? Hearing Xiao Nanya's words, Jiang Changbai, so startled he momentarily forgot the formal way of addressing Xiao Nanya, grabbed his hand. Seeing his nod, Jiang Changbai's eyes were filled with excitement. By the time Han Feng returned, he found his master and Jiang Changbai laughing like fools. Upon witnessing this scene, Han Feng was stunned. What are you standing here for? Yi Xiao, coming over, saw the dumbstruck Han Feng. Yi Xiao, look at our master and the young general. Have they taken the wrong medicine? Following Han Feng's gaze, Yi Xiao took one look at the two and immediately understood. Facing Han Feng, Yi Xiao said plainly, the queen is pregnant. Having said this, she headed to the room. Seeing Yi Xiao, Xiao Nanya stopped her immediately. Don't disturb Huan Let her continue sleeping. Your Highness, the queen instructed me earlier that she needs medicine today. Although Yi Xiao used to be Xiao Nanya's secret guard, since he sent her to serve Jiang Peihuan, her loyalty has been solely to Jiang Peihuan. While Xiao Nanya and Yi Xiao were talking, Jiang Peihuan inside had already awakened. Yi Xiao. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's voice, Yi Xiao instinctively wanted to enter, but someone was faster. Inside, as Jiang Peihuan was about to get up, a hand held her steady. Huan be careful. Seeing Xiao Nanya being overly cautious, Jiang Peihuan couldn't help but chuckle. Xiao Nanya, you don't have to be this careful. No, you're pregnant now, you must be cautious everywhere. Before Jiang Peihuan could finish, Xiao Nanya gently interrupted her. Subsequently, he carefully helped Jiang Peihuan up. Just as she was about to bend down to put on her shoes, she saw him already kneeling in front of her. Xiao Nanya. Seeing him pick up the embroidered shoes, Jiang Peihuan quickly spoke up. In her heart, Jiang Peihuan was rather traditional. Who was Xiao Nanya? He was the imperial uncle, revered by everyone. How could she let such a man kneel before her to put on her shoes? However, he already held her ankle. Carefully placing the blue embroidered shoes on her feet, he then helped her up. At the entrance, Jiang Changbai, Yi Xiao, and Han Feng were all stunned. Finally, it was only when Jiang Peihuan saw Xiao Nanya pick up her clothes, she hurriedly said to Yi Xiao at the door, Yi Xiao, come and help me dress. Yes. Although Xiao Nanya wanted to help Jiang Peihuan dress, her attire was quite intricate, and he wasn't quite familiar with it. However, as Yi Xiao was dressing Jiang Peihuan, Xiao Nanya was closely watching. When Jiang Peihuan sat in front of the dressing table, she could see from the mirror that his gaze was constantly on her. Chapter 316. It must be a daughter. Upon seeing Yi Xiao picking up the wooden comb, Jiang Peihuan whispered, no need to comb a bun, just tie up my hair simply. Yes. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Yi Xiao tied up her long hair and finally inserted a wooden hairpin. This hairpin was a gift from Xiao Nanya to Jiang Peihuan when they were in the capital. As Jiang Peihuan stood up, Xiao Nanya immediately approached and took her hand. This act not only left Jiang Peihuan speechless, but Yi Xiao, upon seeing this, was also stunned. If not for his unchanged face, Yi Xiao would have doubted whether this was the real King Cheng. While Jiang Peihuan was getting ready, Jiang Changbai was waiting outside the courtyard. Upon hearing a noise, he immediately turned around. However, the scene before him left him speechless. Xiao Nanya had one arm around Jiang Peihuan's waist and held her hand with the other, treating her as if she was some fragile object. Jiang Peihuan looked helpless. No matter what she said, Xiao Nanya would agree, but still insisted on his own way. Your Highness, Huan is just pregnant, she's not disabled. You don't have to be so cautious. How can I not be careful? The child Huan carries is my daughter. Hearing Xiao Nanya's words, Jiang Changbai was left speechless. At this moment, Han Feng couldn't help but ask, Master, how do you know that the child in the queen's womb is a princess? At this, Jiang Peihuan was also curious. So, upon hearing Han Feng's words, she turned her gaze to Xiao Nanya. Meeting their gazes, Xiao Nanya casually said, "Because one like daughters, so the child in Peihuan's womb must be a daughter." Han Feng was speechless. Jiang Changbai was speechless. Jiang Peihuan was speechless. After a few seconds of silence, Jiang Peihuan couldn't help but ask, "Xiao Nanya, what if the child is a boy?" She was just asking out of curiosity since the gender is a gift from heaven and not something they could decide. But upon hearing her question, Xiao Nanya seemed lost in thought. After a while, he whispered, "If it really is a son, then we'll have another." "What if it's another boy?" "All right," Jiang Peihuan admitted she was being pedantic. Yet, hearing this, Xiao Nanya was calm. He looked at Jiang Peihuan and suddenly smiled, "If so, then we won't have any more." Meeting Jiang Peihuan's puzzled expression, he softly added, "Then our son and I will protect you." Hearing his words, a gentle smile appeared in Jiang Peihuan's eyes. However, this harmony was quickly interrupted by the loud voice of Wan Das Han. "Queen Cheng, Queen, soon." Jiang Peihuan saw Wan Das Han approaching. Seeing his robust appearance, she was somewhat surprised. Under normal circumstances, Wan Das Han would need at least 3 days to recover. It had only been a day, and Wan Das Han seemed completely fine. "General Wan, greetings, Queen Cheng. Your Highness, you're here too?" Approaching Jiang Peihuan, Wan Das Han saluted her, and after greeting her, he then noticed Xiao Nanya. Hearing his words, Xiao Nanya responded with a smirk, "It's rare for you to notice me in your sight." "What are you talking about, Your Highness? My eyes are perfectly fine. How could I not see you?" Xiao Nanya was speechless. Jiang Peihuan, who was standing nearby, couldn't help but smile at these words. As Xiao Nanya's expression grew increasingly stern, she quickly turned to Wan Das Han and said, "General Wan, you came looking for me. Is there something you need?" "Yes, Queen. Aren't you skilled in medicine? Today, I plan to head out of the city once again. I'm determined to slaughter those scoundrels. But I'm afraid they might poison me again, so I want you to accompany me." "No." Before Jiang Peihuan could reply, Xiao Nanya coldly interjected. Without waiting for Wan Das Han's response, he declared, "The queen is pregnant. She cannot endure such rough conditions. Furthermore, the queen came to Anju to treat the city's inhabitants. Would you not have gone to battle today if the queen hadn't been here?" Stunned by Xiao Nanya's words, Wan Das Han was at a loss for words. At this moment, Cheng Yang rushed over, exclaiming, "Master, it's bad news. The soldiers have started vomiting." Hearing this, Jiang Peihuan quickly followed Cheng Yang to the tent. Xiao Nanya went after them. Upon arriving at the camp, Jiang Peihuan found that the soldiers' conditions had worsened compared to the previous day. She immediately asked Han Feng, "Did you purchase all the herbs listed in the prescription I gave you last night?" "Yes, everything was purchased." "Cheng Yang, Yi Xiao, prepare the medicine." "Yes." While they prepared the medicine, Jiang Peihuan turned to Xiao Nanya, "Do you know where this plague originated?" "In the city." Hearing Xiao Nanya's reply, Jiang Peihuan whispered, "To eradicate this plague, we must first identify its source. I'll have someone investigate." After speaking, Xiao Nanya looked at Han Feng. Han Feng immediately responded, "I'll look into it right away." An hour later, after the medicine was prepared, Jiang Peihuan, along with Yi Xiao and Cheng Yang, distributed it to the infected soldiers. For many, their vomiting subsided after consumption, but for others, especially those in more serious conditions, the effects were not evident. For this group, Jiang Peihuan meticulously treated them and prescribed new remedies. Jiang Peihuan ended up spending the entire day in the camp. The food she ate was delivered by Jiang Changbao. Everyone was understanding of her dietary needs since she was pregnant. However, when Jiang Peihuan saw the chicken soup that Jiang Changbao had prepared, she softly remarked, "Elder brother, given the current situation, there's no need to prepare special meals for me. You're pregnant now. Even if you don't want to eat, the child in your womb needs nourishment. Hearing her words, Jiang Changbai, for once, declined her request. Just as Jiang Peihuan was about to speak, Han Feng, who had been absent the entire day, appeared alongside Xiao Nanye. Do you have any news? Seeing them, Jiang Peihuan asked quietly. Without speaking, Xiao Nanye simply nodded. Shortly after, Jiang Peihuan accompanied Xiao Nanye to a house in the city. As they opened the door, she frowned. Having grown up in the imperial palace, Xiao Nanye had faced many dangers from a young age. Now, at least, he had the ability to protect himself. But Jiang Peihuan shuddered to think of what he might have faced as a child, defenseless. She could hardly fathom the hardships he'd endured to survive until now. Softly holding his hand, she whispered, "Don't worry, Anzhou will be safe." Hearing her words, Xiao Nanye simply nodded. Seeing Jiang Peihuan's face still covered by the handkerchief, he quietly suggested, "We shouldn't linger here. Let's go." "All right. Master, how should we deal with this man?" "Kill him," came the cold reply from Xiao Nanye as Han Feng glanced at the old man lying on the ground. After Jiang Peihuan left, a muffled sound echoed behind her. She didn't utter a word. While the great Empress Dowager was cruel, this old man was no saint either. "Master, are we just going to let this matter go?" Walking back, Han Feng couldn't resist asking Xiao Nanye. Holding Jiang Peihuan's hand, Xiao Nanye coldly responded, "If she thinks she can threaten me, she will regret it. Send a message to the capital. Let our people handle it, starting by cutting off both of his hands." "Yes." "After that, send the gift to the Sinning Palace." "Yes." Han Feng, the chief of Xiao Nanye's secret guards, carried out his master's orders without emotion. However, seeing this side of Xiao Nanye surprised Jiang Peihuan. Having spent some time with him, she'd almost forgotten this man by her side was the ruthlessly decisive King Cheng. In the capital, within the palace's Sinning Palace, the great Empress Dowager put down her prayer beads. After rising with the assistance of a maid, she inquired, "Has there been news from Anzhou?" Hearing her words, the old nanny glanced at another palace maid. Once she had left, she reported, "The plague is rampant in Anzhou, but what? The Queen Cheng has gone to Anzhou. She's really on the same side as King Cheng." However, before the great Empress Dowager could finish her thoughts, an old eunuch walked in holding a box. "Your Royal Majesty, someone sent this box." "What's inside?" For some reason, seeing the box gave the great Empress Dowager a sense of foreboding. The old nanny immediately thought of the previous incident involving Snowball. "Open it." Despite her fear, the great Empress Dowager commanded coldly. Hearing the great Empress Dowager's voice, the old eunuch opened the box in his hand. However, when he saw what was inside, his hand trembled and he threw the box away. What is this?" The old nanny, staring at a pair of severed hands on the ground, was at a loss for words. But soon, the old nanny's expression changed. "Your Royal Majesty, it's young master. It seems to be young master's hand." "What did you say?" Hearing the maid's words, the Empress Dowager rose shakily from her chair and staggered forward. As she beheld the bloody hands on the ground, her vision darkened and she fainted. "Your Royal Majesty?" Seeing her collapse, panic and horror filled the old nanny's eyes. Chapter 318. Going outside the city, Jiang Peihuan was completely unaware of the events transpiring within the palace. Due to her arrival, the epidemic in the military camp was effectively controlled. She instructed the soldiers to be treated based on the severity of their symptoms. Those with mild symptoms, after undergoing treatment, were essentially cured. With this progress, Jiang Peihuan proposed going outside the city. "Huan why do you want to leave the city?" Jiang Changbai couldn't hold back his question upon hearing his sister's intention, even before Xiao Nanye could respond. Knowing of her pregnancy, Jiang Changbai had hoped that she would return to the capital to recuperate. But he knew her temperament too well and understood that she would not be easily dissuaded. Hence, he had been by her side these days, ensuring she did not overexert herself. Hearing her mention of venturing outside the city, his eyes reflected clear disapproval. Elder brother, the soldiers in the camp have been well treated, and soon, all will be healed. The city's residents can gradually seek medical treatment, but the people outside the city have no such options. Hasn't it been said that rebels have risen in various places in Anzhou? In these times, who can the people outside the city rely on? By going outside, I can at least provide them a glimmer of hope, saving whoever I can. Otherwise, even if we heal everyone inside, the infection might still spread. I'll go with you, Xiao Nanya whispered. He wanted to protect Jiang Peihuan from harm, but as a military commander, he also had to consider the well-being of all the people. Unable to stop her, the best he could do was to accompany and protect her. But when he offered, Jiang Peihuan refused. No, you can't go. Seeing his puzzled expression, she explained, you are the commander, and unless there's a special situation, you cannot leave the camp. In the end, Jiang Peihuan set out for the outskirts of the city, accompanied by Han Feng. Watching them depart with evident concern, Han Feng whispered to Xiao Nanya, Master, rest assured. I will ensure the queen's safety. If anything happens to her, don't bother returning, he responded coldly. Yes. Upon leaving the city, Jiang Peihuan directed Han Feng to head west, where most of the populace resided. Just outside the city gates, she saw several emaciated figures. The sight filled her eyes with complexity. In her reincarnated life, she initially only wanted revenge and to protect her family. However, over time, her aspirations grew. If possible, she wished to do her best to safeguard even more people. After all, the people of Qi Kingdom were the very ones her parents were willing to give their lives for. My queen, someone's approaching. As their carriage approached a narrow path, Han Feng whispered. Jiang Peihuan responded faintly, then reached for the whip at her waist. Who is it? Accompanying Han Feng's voice was the clashing sound of blades. Hearing it, Jiang Peihuan immediately pulled back the curtain. The men Han Feng had brought were skilled fighters, and they showed no signs of panic upon confronting the approaching figures. But soon, Han Feng realized something was wrong. Many people were approaching, and they weren't from just one group but several gangs of bandits from nearby mountains. When he recognized this, Han Feng immediately warned Jiang Peihuan, Queen Cheng, these men seem to have come prepared for, watch out. Before he could finish, a shadow lunged directly at Jiang Peihuan. She saw the approaching figure and promptly lashed out with her whip, stopping the assailant a meter away. That's a pretty good whip, a voice remarked, startling Jiang Peihuan. The voice clearly belonged to a child, yet the man before her was middle-aged. However, you're no match for me, the childlike voice continued. The man then lunged at Jiang Peihuan with a dagger in hand. During their confrontation, Jiang Peihuan quickly realized that she was outclassed by the man's bizarre and superior martial skills. The strange man looked amused. Young lady, you're quite skilled. Too bad you've met me today, he added, as his dagger aimed for Jiang Peihuan's belly. Jiang Peihuan could have countered, but she wouldn't risk the child in her womb, so she sidestepped. The dagger then landed at her neck. Stop, or I'll kill her. Queen Cheng. Han Feng, amidst fighting others, caught sight of this and exclaimed. Without hesitation, he ordered, everyone, stop. Both Jiang Peihuan and Han Feng were soon bound and immobilized, not only physically but also through pressure point techniques, rendering them as vulnerable as ordinary people. An hour later, they were removed from the carriage and locked in an underground cell. When they arrived, Jiang Peihuan was blindfolded, so she wasn't sure of their exact location, but she had her suspicions. Once they were locked in the cell, her blindfold was removed, revealing the bizarre man. You aren't a local bandit, are you? Jiang Peihuan asked, her tone more assertive than inquisitive. When the man heard Jiang Peihuan's words, he was stunned and then laughed softly. Does that matter? Of course it does. I need to know why you've captured me. It's simple. I captured you to kill you. But I won't just kill you directly, I intend to torture you first. Do you realize she is the queen of the Cheng mansion? If you harm her, our master will ensure you won't have a burial place, Han Feng said menacingly. He was almost in despair, having just been entrusted by his master to protect Jiang Peihuan and now facing this predicament. The bizarre man, however, laughed off Han Feng's threat. Young man, I know who your master is. Xiao Nanye is formidable, but I'm not afraid of him. Sir, I must admit your skills are admirable. However, there's one thing I don't understand. If you already know who 1 am, why bring trouble upon yourself? Chapter 319. Captured. Even if you aren't afraid of Xiao Nanye, killing me would bring unnecessary trouble to you, wouldn't it? Why would you do this? Enough. The man interrupted Jiang Peihuan and coldly said, if there's anyone to blame, blame yourself for offending someone you shouldn't have. Enjoy the little time you have left. With that, the man left. Jiang Peihuan was left with a look of confusion. Who had she offended? She could only think of a few people she might have wronged. In the capital. In the Prince Qing mansion. Miss, a letter for you. Standing by the window, Lin Mengyaro turned around upon hearing her maid's voice. She took the letter and quickly read through it. Her eyes lit up with excitement. After reading, Lin Mengyaro burned the letter. Without Jiang Peihuan, everything she lost would be returned to her. Your Highness. As she was lost in her thoughts, she heard the maid announce a visitor. Lin Mengyaro quickly composed herself and greeted the approaching figure. Greetings, Your Highness. Rise. What are you burning? Upon entering, Xiao Juanhao noticed the smell of burning paper. He saw the ashes on the floor. It was just a poem one had written. One didn't like it, so one burned it. Xiao Juanhao gave a slight nod and didn't press further. He reached out, and Lin Mengyaro obediently placed her hand in his. But she didn't feel the warmth she once did. I heard that the main princess consort has been giving you trouble recently. Lin Mengyao's eyes flashed when she heard Xiao Junhao's words. Then, she laughed softly. Your Highness must be joking. Why would the main princess consort cause trouble for me? As long as you're not troubled, that's good. Seeing her smile, Xiao Juanhao whispered. But beneath that smile, Lin Mengyao's heart turned cold. This was the Prince Qing mansion. Lin Mengyaro didn't believe that Xiao Juanhao wasn't aware of what Jiang Yang had done to her. However, he chose not to act. Lin Mengyaro looked at the man beside her. She always believed he was different and genuinely loved her. But now, she doubted those feelings. Does he truly love her? Yarrow, right now, one need the main princess consort's assistance. Some things may inconvenience you. But rest assured, when I ascend to power one day, everything that belongs to you, 111 ensure it's returned. I understand, Your Highness. Lin Mengyaro responded, feigning gratitude, her eyes filled with appreciation. Seeing her expression, Xiao Junhao's eyes softened. Holding Lin Mengyao's hand gently, he spoke, one came today because there's a matter I want to discuss with you. If Your Highness needs Yarrow to do anything, just give the word. I want you to return to the Lin mansion. Meeting Lin Mengyao's puzzled gaze, Xiao Juanhao continued, even if you and Lin Xingchen aren't close, you are still family. Mengyaro, Lin Xingchen is currently trusted deeply by the Emperor. One hope you can find a way to bring him to our side. Your Highness, I understand. One will find a way. Yarrow, thank you for your effort. Serving Your Highness is my duty, Lin Mengyaro replied, smiling at the ashes on the floor. Lin Mengyaro said with a smile as she looked at the ashes on the ground. In Anju, the basement. If Jiang Peihuan was previously unsure of what the man meant, the rising water in the dungeon made it clear. Han Feng's eyes were filled with panic at the sight. He could endure any form of torture, but he was deeply worried about the child inside Jiang Peihuan's belly. The child in her belly was less than 3 months old. If it was soaked in water for a long time, something would definitely happen to the child. At this moment, Han Feng had already untied the rope on his hand. He approached Jiang Peihuan. "My queen, let me untie you." After helping Jiang Peihuan untie the rope, Han Feng wanted to push the door in front of him. However, no matter how hard he tried, the wooden door did not budge. However, the water level in the basement kept rising, and soon, it reached knee level. "Han Feng, stop wasting your energy. We can't open that door," Jiang Peihuan whispered. "But what should we do? If this continues, the child inside you will be in danger. Stay calm." Jiang Peihuan tried to remain composed. At this juncture, Han Feng suddenly suggested, "My queen, please sit on my shoulders." At this moment, the water level had already reached his waist. Seeing her hesitation, Han Feng quickly added, "For the sake of the little one inside you. One believe the master will come to our aid soon." It was the only option left. Jiang Peihuan then climbed onto Han Feng's shoulders. Han Feng stood in a corner of the room, providing him with a point of support. With Jiang Peihuan leaning against the wall, both were relatively more comfortable. 2 hours later, the water had risen to Ian Feng's chest. From the doorway, they then heard the voice of a child, "You seem quite loyal to Xiao Nanya." When the strange man saw this scene, displayed a hint of surprise in his eyes. However, this was quickly followed by a mocking laughter. Han Feng remained silent. His acupoints had been sealed, leaving him almost devoid of strength. While Jiang Peihuan wasn't heavy, maintaining the same posture for such an extended period had taken its toll on Han Feng. Upon hearing the man's words, Jiang Peihuan suddenly laughed. "Sir, have you ever considered that you might be used by someone? While I may not know who I've offended, they approached you to kill me. They never considered the trouble it might cause you. Would you still risk your life for them? Young lady, you're quite sharp-tongued for your age." The man, who previously wore a smile, turned somber after hearing Jiang Peihuan's words. His gaze was as cold as a venomous snake. Upon seeing a part of a handkerchief peeking out from his chest, Jiang Peihuan continued, "If I'm not mistaken, the person might be a woman you're fond of, right? My junior sister said you were very clever. I didn't believe her before, but now I do." Chapter 320. Xiao Nanya came, so you're implying that the one who sent you to kill me was your junior sister. Upon hearing the man's words, Jiang Peihuan calmly responded. Jiang Peihuan's assertion darkened the strange man's already sullen face even further, making his appearance all the more terrifying. Looking at Jiang Peihuan, he coldly said, "You indeed are clever, but this intelligence will be your end." After saying that, the man took out the key and opened the door to the basement. Without caring about his clothes, he directly walked into the water. The man ignored his clothes and walked into the water. Since Jiang Peihuan was sitting on Han Feng's shoulders, the man had to look up to face her. Meeting Jiang Peihuan's gaze, the man's eyes showed a mixture of emotions. "In your next life, remember not to be too smart." Finishing his words, he drew his dagger. Before Jiang Peihuan could react, Han Feng, with fury in his eyes, said, "How dare you try to hurt the queen, and you will surely meet a gruesome end." Hearing Han Feng's words, the man laughed out loud as if he had heard a good joke. Although there was a smile on the man's face, there was no smile in his eyes. If one looked carefully, there was only endless mockery and disdain. "In that case, I'll kill you first." As soon as he finished speaking, the dagger in the man's hand stabbed straight into Han Feng's heart. However, just as he took a step forward, his wrist went limp, and the dagger in his hand fell out. The man quickly held onto the wall at the side. If he had not reacted quickly, he would have fallen into the water. The man tried to muster his energy and send out a palm wind, but he was powerless. His eyes filled with shock, he stared at Jiang Peihuan. "It was you." "No, I've already sealed your acupuncture points." You sealed my acupoints so that I can't use my martial arts, but you can't stop me from using poison." "Poison?" Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, the surprise in the man's eyes deepened. Facing his astonishment, Jiang Peihuan calmly stated, "Didn't your junior sister tell you? I'm a physician, well-versed in medical arts and adept at using poison." Jiang Peihuan interrupted the man's words and said lightly, The man didn't say anything else. Instead, he closed his eyes. A moment ago, a strange scene had appeared before his eyes. The man's figure suddenly changed. The clothes on his body kept shrinking. Soon, the man in front of him turned into a child. No, to be precise, it was a body with a child's body but an adult's face. Witnessing this scene, Jiang Peihuan's eyes were full of surprise. Han Feng whispered, "My queen, it's the bone shrinking technique. Such a technique actually exists in this world." In her previous life, Jiang Peihuan had heard about a martial skill on the martial arts world stage that allowed individuals to change their body size at will, known as the bone shrinking technique. Jiang Peihuan had always considered it a mere legend, not realizing its actual existence. He. You thought poisoning me would leave me helpless against you? The man, no, the child now, glared malevolently at Jiang Peihuan, sneering. As his voice trailed off, he charged directly at Han Feng and Jiang Peihuan. Seeing this, Jiang Peihuan immediately drew the whip from her waist. Even though her martial strength was temporarily hindered, her hand skills remained. Jiang Peihuan was fast, but the man was faster. He grabbed the whip Jiang Peihuan lashed out, and yanked it forcefully. She was pulled off Han Feng's shoulders. Queen Cheng? Witnessing this, Han Feng immediately reached out. However, the man scoffed and blocked Han Feng. As she was falling, Jiang Peihuan instinctively held her belly, her back facing the ground. However, she felt herself being caught by someone's embrace. Soon after, Han Feng's excited voice reached her ears, "Master?" Hearing this voice, Jiang Peihuan immediately opened her eyes. The one holding her was none other than Xiao Nanye. Xiao Nanye's men had their unique ways of communication, so upon receiving the message, Xiao Nanye hurried over without delay. Recalling what he had just witnessed, Xiao Nanye's eyes filled with fury. As he held Jiang Peihuan, the man applied force to his wrist, throwing her onto his back. Lying on Xiao Nanye's back, Jiang Peihuan instinctively held his neck. Xiao Nanye, supporting Jiang Peihuan with one hand and drawing his long sword with the other, pointed it at the man before him. "Even if you're the leader of Qianji Pavilion, you wouldn't dare to act so boldly in front of me. Just learning the basics of the bone shrinking technique and you dared to harm my people? You're seeking death." As his voice trailed off, the long sword in Xiao Nanye's hand immediately aimed for the man's heart. The man, now in the form of a child, moved with exceptional agility, effortlessly dodging Xiao Nanye's sword. But Xiao Nanye's moves grew faster and fiercer. Jiang Peihuan soon heard the man's screams of agony. "Is everyone from the Qianji Pavilion as weak as you?" With one hand supporting Jiang Peihuan and the other wielding the sword, Xiao Nanye cut off the man's hand. The man, splashed in the water, stared at his severed wrist, eyes filled with terror and malice. After his hand was severed, the man's form changed again. Jiang Peihuan watched as he transformed back into his adult form. The prerequisite of the bone shrinking technique is an intact skeletal structure and limbs. Now, you can't use the bone shrinking technique ever again. Saying this, Xiao Nanye raised his sword again. Seeing the sword aimed for the man's neck, Jiang Peihuan gently tapped on the man's shoulder. "Wait."